this. Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today is December 26, 2025. I want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Hopefully I can talk. I also want to thank my wife, Susie Williams, for hiring our guest today, Greg Cohen, for the Lit Show. Greg, what an honor and a pleasure to have you here at the Fialka Funny Farm.
Nice to be here. It's really my honor and pleasure, Gerry.
Well,
we tried to do this earlier, but there was an invasion of people from outer space that prompted a new time and date to be found. So we apologize, and we're happy to announce that those people from outer space never got here. Well, they got close enough, and then they looked down and they said, nah, forget it.
First question is, Greg, what is the best thing for a human being?
The best thing?
Yeah.
Love.
I get that the most, and I totally agree. What's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
The best way to let information come into my orbit is to be open to everything.
Yeah. But that's the verb. I'm asking also the form. What form does it come?
Oh, like, you know, like a book or
exactly. That's a form, how the information's coming in. What's your favorite form?
Divine providence.
But it's funny you said book, because I'm going to divert divine providence. We're going to get deeper into that. You said book, and I like that because did you become a reader? One, because your parents told you to. Two, they did as an example, or three, on your own?
Yes.
All three of them?
Well, you know, I was a reluctant student when I was young.
Yeah.
So I just thought reading represented being a square and being like adults. And so I didn't want to have anything to do with it because, you know, you got to remember, my brother and I, we grew up in Hollywood. And when I was 6 and he was 8, we were in a rock and roll band. So we were practicing playing bad boy rock and roll in a garage on Beechwood Drive in Hollywood between Beverly and Melrose. And the last thing we wanted to do was pick up War and Peace on the break. We'd walk to Al's Liquor, get an RC Cola, a box of Cracker Jacks, and just go back and write a few new tunes after that.
That is so cool. But there's some stuff. Did he ever turn, because I know you're a reader now, did he turn over and start reading books before you and you were inspired by that? Or did you?
Most definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
My brother is a great writer. Danny
what
Cohen.
Age? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Danny Cohen is a great poet and writer. Yeah. And I still have a lot of his handwritten manuscripts that he sent me over the years. He's a great songwriter as well. But I remember from going back to the time I was 7 and 8, just being awestruck by the way he could write a poem or a story. And very early on, we started to, as if we were writing a book or reading a book, we started to write shows that we would put on the street, you know, in the driveway or in the garage. Yeah. With puppet shows first and then theatrical shows. Yeah. I'm in the center. Don't worry.
No, I know. I just want to make
sure. It's just my head's crooked. So I don't know if I should try to fix my head.
Are those red, white numbers moving?
Everything's moving, but I thought it was that mushroom that I ate.
But did he at a particular age kind of lean towards reading? Because how's he writing poems at 6 and 8?
Yeah, he leaned towards reading, and I remember
earlier,
very early. I remember Poe and some other instances, for Danny, and you know, I was different. I wasn't the intellect, and natural artist that my brother was. It took me a long time to evolve to even think about how I wanted to express myself in art.
Yeah.
And I always felt I was living under the shadow of not only my brother, but my mother, who was an extremely talented artist that worked in the television movie studios, and then later at the planetarium at Griffith Park as
Oh my God.
space illustrator.
Okay, we're going to get into all that. You're really touching on everything. This, in regards to that word information, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Well, we need to have information to develop our societies
Yeah.
and to survive.
Yeah.
But we also need information as a way of leaving a history for the things that worked and didn't work for the next generations.
Yeah.
If there's no scriptures of some kind, then we keep, I mean, like just in the past 5 years, I could say, I see people that I know and people that I don't know, like in politics, making the same mistakes maybe 10 times in the course of 5 years. They have not learned anything from the big fuck up from 4 years ago. And they're doing the exact same thing 3 years later.
That's right.
I mean,
but is this need or want? Because you said some good words there. Most people say survival. You said develop and to leave history, to leave a history of knowing what works and what doesn't work. Really suss that out well. But is this need or want to collect information more innate or more invented?
It's changed just in the past 2 years because of AI. Now we have this artificial intelligence that's storing everything for us and has the potential to develop things that have not yet completely come to fruition and make it happen. It's being used in science, it's being used in education, it's being used for songwriting, it's being used all across the board. Is it being used in the right way? I don't know. But what I've found is that it's on all of us as individuals, no matter how old we are, to develop intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually.
Yeah.
If we let that triangle get out of balance at any point in our life, we will flounder somehow. If we let two sides of that triangle get off kilter, then we're sinking. So intelligence alone will not float the boat.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating about AI is that AI has enough at their disposal to know that the emotional factors and the spiritual factors need to be present for the development of ideas.
Good.
So it's changing.
Yeah.
Getting back to your original question, there's always been a component in the society that's very heady, that is studied, whether in school or by books or by experience. The scientists, the artists, the writers, the visionaries, the gurus, all of this has always been a part of our society, going back to before written word. Now, we don't always know who those people are because we might not be in touch with the lineage that allows us, like Babaji, in the Hindu religion, or some other prophet that's seldom spoken of except for by people who had advanced on that path to a very high state. So a lot of the people that might be the most important people, we don't know who they are, or we don't even know they exist and how they exist and what they're doing. Yeah. We do know the names that are in the news. And in a way, that's always been and still is a smokescreen to divert the attention from what could be really important for each one of us as individuals for our life, which is that path to self-realization, to be liberated, to be whatever it is you want to be. If it's an artist, if it's a, maybe you want to be a caregiver or a doctor or whatever it might be, you need to liberate yourself through your own discovery process. Yeah. And if you keep looking to the news or looking to the icons, the president, the person with the most money, the person with the biggest sports car collection in Dubai or whatever it is, you're always going to get off the track.
Yeah.
So somehow it's especially important for artists, in my opinion, to not let that sway you, to not let that become, I'm a little saddened when I hear these songs written by AI, only because not that AI didn't do their job. I happen to like AI, but I think the person who requests AI to do this is not doing their job.
Yeah, you touched on a line I heard on the radio. AI is in its early stage, and it's our job to raise it well. The question that you at ESP, the question you perceived perfectly for the follow-up is, do thoughts create emotions?
I would say it's like a figure eight.
Yeah.
Or like a proton, neutron, electron.
Yeah.
Type
Mobius
of,
strip.
yeah, or gyroscopic activity.
Gyroscopic, yeah.
It can't, one cannot exist successfully without the other.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's I've been very lucky to know a lot of in my life so far, to have known a lot of people that are very exalted as intellects, and also as exalted as spiritualists, and exalted as feelers, or somehow providing comfort to the world.
Yeah.
I don't think any super discipline can exist without having all three of those things. You know, when you're talking about music, when you're talking about if you want to be a playwright, or if you want to be a industrial designer, or whatever it is, you need to feel and not just think.
Yeah.
You can't just work with a slide rule and you know, drafting paper and think that alone is going to do it. And sure enough, when you study somebody like Raymond Loewy or Richard Arbib, or any of the great designers, that's what you see. You see somebody who's feeling and thinking about how the people are going to use this. What is my legacy? Not just by inventing something, but by maybe making these people's lives in the future more interesting, colorful, and
beautiful.
Really easier.
Really
easier.
Well put. Greg, fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until
I don't know what I think until I pause.
Oh, see, McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. Pause is beautiful. Can humans think without language?
Yes.
Wow.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Chomsky says language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
So let's go back a second.
Okay.
Because you asked me fill in the blank, and
I said
fill in
the blank, and you said pause. Yeah, go ahead.
The reason why I said pause is that I'll soon turn 73.
Yeah.
And as I get older, it's not just good to slow down for your bones and for your eyes and all this stuff. Your thought process needs time to go through all of the
Rolodex.
The machinery of not just your brain. Where does ideas, where do they store in your body or your awareness? Is it all in the body? Is it in an aura outside of the body? Is it just in the brain? Is it in the heart? Is it in the instinctive level? Is it in the skeletal doing part of your body? Of course, the answer is all of that. So the ideas are outside of your body.
All of it,
and I can't just whip something off the top of my head to answer it like that without a little pause and without a time to reflect. And by that time, I'm on to something else, and it doesn't matter.
But pause is such an amazing word because, you know, McLuhan saying, say it, Joan Didion saying, write it. Pause is what McLuhan called the resonating interval. It's the in-betweenness, like stop in that resonating interval, that in-betweenness.
Yeah.
So
that's, well, I mean, what us musicians do, we play something.
Yeah.
And unless we pause, it's just one string of ideas. It's like making a popcorn string for your Christmas tree and not leaving any space for the little berries or whatever. You can't even tell what it is. It just looks like white something. So you have to pause. You have to put in a little spacer
Yeah.
for anything important that you do.
Yeah.
You know, because every action needs a reaction.
Yeah. I saw Alan Holzer's last show in Venice at the Townhouse before he died. And his band members were like, and they never paused and let up. At least, no, I'll pass for now.
This is a holiday chocolate.
But I appreciate it, but I'm going to put it here. I'm not going to.
Okay. Would you guys like one out in the home audience? Also, animals are welcome. There's nothing bad in it. It's
nothing bad.
A lot of people have been down talking Trader Joe's. I just want you to know it's up to us to find what's good and bad in every store. So this is something that they sell just at holiday time, and it's good. It's like peppermint chocolate, white chocolate. In fact, I'm going to try a little so you can see what I'm talking about. Here it is. And let's see how good it is.
So you're at Trader's and you have a communication breakdown with a clerk or a fellow customer.
That is good.
When language doesn't work, what do you do?
Buy more groceries. No, I have to say it like this, Gerry.
Yeah.
I have no expectations from anybody, not you, from no one at Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
So if communication breaks down, it's probably my fault just as much as anybody else's.
Exactly.
Because maybe without saying anything, I'm putting out an air that makes them defensive or whatever. So I just try to take it in, observe it, learn from it, and go on with my business.
What you said, discover, indulge, and move on. Okay. So these are two from Alan Turing in the 50s. One is thinking a function of the soul.
Thinking of a function of
is thinking
is thinking
a function of the soul.
Okay. I'm getting out of my league here because that gentleman is definitely out of my league. But I would say for me, the soul encompasses everything that we do.
Yeah, I agree.
So thinking, feeling, anything that we do where we want to turn off, like astral travel or whatever it is, is an aspect of the soul.
Yeah.
If for whatever reason you cannot find your soul in this life, it's a sad thing.
Yeah.
Because that is that is like our sun.
Yeah.
That's what powers us.
Yeah.
In a way that's not just about doing the mundanities of life. It's what powers us to want to reach for something that we can't see.
That's Browning's quote. Humans' reach should exceed their grasp, or what is heaven for? In McLuhan reworded, he says, our reach should exceed our grasp, or what is a metaphor? It's a joke. So you touched on this one, Greg, and I appreciate it. This is the second Turing question. Can machines think?
They are. They're thinking
Yeah.
right now. And perhaps they have thought longer than just the digital age.
Yeah.
There's a talented actress who starred in a show years ago called Mackinac, which is a story, I believe, written in the 1920s about machines taking over society in some way. And it was pretty, I remember seeing it. It was pretty poignant. And her name was Jody Markell, and that got me thinking back then about just what is the difference between us. I mean, we are machines.
Yeah.
We're like little computers. We're like little tractors. We're like little automatic dishwashers.
Yeah.
All these machines are basically a representation of what we could do if we, I don't want to say lazy, if we had the time to do it all.
Yeah.
Or the strength to do it all.
Yeah.
Now we have AI, and what I'm finding, because I do use AI, um, what I'm finding is that AI is much more emotional than a lot of people that I know,
Yeah, amazing.
and
Thank you
funnier.
for saying more emotional and more funny. Okay,
I hate saying that, but it's
don't
true.
don't hate it. More emotional and more funny. No problem.
And what took me down this rabbit hole is, before we started, Gerry asked me about reading, which I've always loved to do, but I was either lucky or unlucky enough to have eye surgery when I was still in Germany. I don't like doing advertisements very often, but in this case, I will. This eye doctor basically destroyed my eyes, and I can't really read anymore. Not like a book. I can read a couple pages, but then my eyes start to blur up and what have you. But it was it was during COVID, and it was a very strange situation where I never got to actually see the doctor, and because it's different language and everything. But the way around that, the way these people got around it, was that the head of the clinic was the doctor's mother, who had the same last name as the doctor. So you never got a session with Dr. I can't remember his name right now.
But you got a session with
but Dr. the mother's version, who was just like a complete horrible person, and said, "You're not getting that. You're going to get this." So in the end, there were supposed to be 2 lenses replaced in my eyes, and in my right eye, they put a lens in that, instead of being like this, was like that. So it started to chew up the eyeball. It worked like a little razor blade or a circular saw. And then the other eye, they put the wrong lens in. So it really, fucked me up big time. And fortunately, when I came to Los Angeles, and I'm so happy I did, my 2 sons, Ben and Wyatt, said, "Dad, you're coming to LA. That's it. No more pandemics breaking us apart."
Yeah.
So I moved here, and I found out about the Stein Institute in UCLA, which is fantastic, one of the best eye places in the world. And even though I just have Medicare, I got with one of these great young doctors, and she examined what was going on with my eyes. And she said, "I put your case in front of the board, every major doctor at the Stein Institute, and they all said, we can't operate on him again, or he might lose his eyeball." So what she did was a series of zaps to try to get the lens to pop back in a little bit more of an upright position, and then a bunch of series of zaps to burn out the scar tissue that had formed on my eyes, in my eyes.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of coming back a little, but still, maybe as horrible as that doctor was, maybe he helped me in the sense that, because now I'm not reading like I used to read, I'm getting familiar with how to use AI.
Yeah.
And I can, I'm finding that I don't like anything to be in servitude for anybody.
Yeah.
I just don't like that. I don't like the concept of having people work under you. So the only way I feel right about asking AI questions, about digging further into the books or the studies that I've done in the past, is by getting AI involved in the discussion.
Good.
And somehow making it a forum, which has just been amazing. And I've learned so much in a short period of time.
That's really good. You're really articulate there and concise. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Yes.
Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
I don't think the brain is detecting consciousness. I think the consciousness is there, and the brain can recognize it if consciousness is allowed to come to the fore.
Yeah.
But the brain will not bring consciousness to the fore.
Yeah. See, you changed the verb. That's what I like, Greg, is it's me and you versus the wording on the questions. So if I say create conscious or detect, you says recognize, that's what I'm for. Like we're just, it is a forum, like you said, it's a forum. We're trying. So what's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Let me start by saying, for what I do, most people are concerned with the speed of sound.
Sound.
The speed of sound.
Yes.
That's what everybody's chasing.
Yeah.
In the music game, the speed of sound, and somehow trying to make their own sonic boom in a way.
Yeah.
Like to really hit hard and to be recognizable with a splash. That's like a sonic boom.
To make their own sonic boom.
Yeah. So you got the speed of sound.
Yeah.
You got the speed of light, and you got the speed of thought.
Yeah.
I'll say that the speed of sound and the speed of light are pretty much given.
Yeah.
The speed of thought is not given because it varies with each individual.
Yeah.
So you cannot equate the speed of thought with the speed of sound or light.
Yeah, not given. That is beautiful. No one's ever said that.
But what you can do
is,
for instance, for me, it's very important to think of myself as a musician dealing with the speed of light and not the speed of sound.
Oh.
Not just because the speed of light is so much faster, but transmission of light allows ideas to move through time and space as a vibration and as light and as pitch and as like a rainbow, a statement.
That's beautiful. That's so good. We're going to get into music, and that was really gorgeous. Audre Lorde, the poet, said, "You can't dismantle."
Look at that. Look at that. See that candy cane crumble on the top? I mean, tell me this isn't a gorgeous thing.
Well constructed nourishment.
Oh, man. Thank you, Trader.
So Audre Lorde said, "You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools." Her colleague, Yvonne Rainer, said, "Oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?" And it doesn't have to be tangible.
I don't agree with that quote.
Yeah, that's fine too. You can analyze. Basically what I'm asking you, and you can dissect the quote.
Well, I'll answer your question.
Yeah.
But I need to preface it.
Please, go ahead.
You can dismantle the master.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing becomes a moot point.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what's happening in our society all too often. You have somebody who is just a bona fide seer or genius or whatever you want to call them. I don't like the word genius, but I'm using it for speed.
Okay.
That person can be dismantled by the rewriting of history, whether it's Da Vinci or anybody else.
Yeah.
So the tools that built that master's house are no longer important. What is important for that time and place is the fact that somebody came along and said, well, Da Vinci did this or so-and-so did that. And then you don't think about the tools. You don't think about the life spent in constructing not just the house, but the ideas, the philosophies, the opening the doors for so many other students and people who are interested in pursuing that art form or that discipline.
Yeah.
So you can dismantle the master. You can dismantle the master's house. You can destroy the master's tools.
Yeah.
And tools can be destroyed.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about the tool, which is the mind or the spirit or the desire to just, like we said, reach for something that otherwise and previously was unattainable,
Yeah.
That's the best tool that you can have.
Oh, that is great. So you're saying the mind, the spirit, and the desire is the tool you gravitate towards the most.
I mean, I think Da Vinci could build any tool
Yeah.
based off of his desire
Yeah.
to want to put something in the air and have something fly, or to have something spiral down, or whatever it might be.
To manifest his idea. He could.
Exactly. All my heroes, I don't have many heroes.
Yeah.
But all my heroes, I'm sort of centered, but I
was just looking.
My brother's more like a giraffe, but I'm sort of like, I don't know what it would be, a greater kudu or something.
Greater kudu. Wait, what is that?
That's something greater than the normal kudu.
What's a
No,
kudu?
it's a spiral horned antelope.
Okay, thank you. That's a kudu. Spiral.
And kudos to whoever came up with that name.
But your brother is what?
He's more like a giraffe.
Giraffe. Bro is a giraffe, and you're
walk faster than us, and his head would be like 3 body lengths ahead of his body.
But this tool question is really tackled beautifully by you, and I appreciate it. Asking all these people the tool question, one person said, well, what about a toy? So now I say, what toy do you gravitate towards? What's a toy you gravitate towards?
Well, everything in my life's a toy.
Okay.
I don't think, I had the great luxury in my life to have worked with the musician Ornette Coleman for about 3+ years.
Yeah.
And Ornette was a extremely gifted musician and he had a very interesting view of life in general. And he used to like to tell this story about how he grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, and his mom had no money, and he slept on a pallet on the floor, like the song says, "Make me a pallet on the floor." You're a pallet on the floor. No, he actually slept on a pallet on the floor, and so one morning he woke up and he saw at the foot of his bed a little box. He opened that box and there was a toy saxophone in it, because his mother said, Ornette, we don't have money for a saxophone. And so he just assumed that was that. He asked, put the message out, and then let it go. And then he sees this toy saxophone. And he just immediately picked it up like we do with toys and started making sounds with the toy saxophone. Well, it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, that was a real saxophone that she bought him. And she took all the money they had and scraped some money together, got Ornette a saxophone. And he just figured, since, they had no money for this, that it was a toy saxophone. So he said to me, Greg, I never really learned technically how to play the saxophone because I just thought it was a toy.
Wow.
And then by the time I got around to realizing it was a real saxophone and that I needed to learn scales and arpeggios and, things about writing and reading and interpreting music, I'd already had the mindset of thinking of it as a toy.
That is an amazing story. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
If I will wake up the next morning.
Yeah, I get that answer. Okay, now, McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound, the poet, that artists are the antenna of the race. Musicians, artists. They are broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions.
Wait a second. Could you start over with that?
Yeah. Artists are like the antenna of the race. Dylan even says this. I'm just a radio antenna and I'm just receiving. He said, the Pound was saying, the artists are just detecting these hidden psychic effects of our inventions. So we look to the artists because they might help us learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So McLuhan probed this question his whole life, what I asked you. Why do we generally, humans, ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Gerry, this is a romantic question.
Yes, it is a romantic question. Very.
So you're imagining that we're sitting here,
Yeah,
like Franz Schubert and Robert Schumann over a cup of Goldwasser and black tea and discussing things on this level.
Yeah.
My friend, time has moved on and nobody gives a shit about any of this anymore. I hate to tell you this.
Yeah.
You probably already know because you read a lot. But of course there's people out there, you know, as a musician that likes to play creative music.
Yeah.
I'll play in New York City, I'll play here in Los Angeles, I'll play over in Europe or in another great city around the United States, which there's great music in every city and even in the countrysides. But after a while, it's like being in the movie Groundhog's Day. And Groundhog's Day is coming up. Don't forget. I believe it's, what is it? January 2nd? Or February 2nd.
Feb 2.
Yeah. You see the same people in the front 2 or 3 rows. And if it's very creative music, in other words, no big name star on the marquee, it might just be those first 3 rows.
Yeah. Somebody
with a recording device, somebody with an album to sign, or you know, I got this CD when I saw you in La Havre, you know. It's the same people.
Yeah.
They are the ones following around the antennae and the transmission and receptions of said antennae.
Yeah.
Everybody else is just go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
They don't mean it that way.
Yeah.
But they just have no interest in creative music, in creative literature, in creative filmmaking, in creative fine arts.
Yeah.
We have moved into a different era, sadly.
Yeah.
You know, even people who go to school and maybe they don't know what they want to do. They say, oh, I'm going to study art history. I'm going to become an art historian. Yet there's nothing, there's no roots there that make you honor each one of those artists in a way like you would be snuggling your cat or your puppy. You know, that's not there. It's more of an abstraction thing. I have to do this study course, so I'm going to become an art historian. 100 years ago, somebody would take up an instrument or get together and play parlor music or study the works of a certain aspect of fine arts, because if they didn't, they would die. They could not go on living.
Compulsion, you mean?
Yeah, it was like a burning in the soul.
Burning in the soul. Good.
That just made you want to learn everything there was to know about that field. And then when you're talking about antennae, in a way, we're all transmitters and receivers.
Yep.
We all have the capacity to transmit and receive things on a number of levels: spiritual, mental, emotional, and probably even some other levels that we're not aware of that might have something to do with connecting us to the universe. Mm-hmm. We usually don't get there because life is becoming more complicated, not in the sense of it's really not that complicated, but it's becoming more complicated because people are being exposed, no offense with podcasts or whatever, but the whole presence of the digital world versus taking out the Farmer's Almanac or reading a book off the shelf or walking to the movie theater and seeing Gone with the Wind or whatever it was. It's a different world. Yeah. People get information in a different way now. Yeah. So there's so much information out there and there's so many antennae vacillating in every direction that people don't feel it. They don't receive it. They don't even transmit it most of the time.
Well, what you just said is amazing, because Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce, 39, is he satirized information overload. And
Mhm.
so that's that. So now the next follow-up question, that was really beautiful. What you said there was, I appreciate it, the question is, do artists have moral obligation?
Artists have no obligation.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
artists have no obligation.
Yeah.
But when you come across a great activist, whether it's in the field of the fine arts or music or literature or science, for me,
Yeah.
science is the same as art.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so I group it all into one category, which is how we can milk the seeds of thought to create something,
Yeah.
and not just look at it from a intellectual perspective. We have to take that thought and squeeze the essence of creativity out of it. It's not enough to know that 1 + 1 = 2.
Because as Frank Zappa sings, 1 + 1 is 11. 2 + 2 is 22.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
I guess I would be equally afraid of both, depending on whose ideas they are.
There you go.
I mean, I think everything that I've ever been exposed to is something I want to embrace. You know,
Good.
Duke Ellington said that somebody asked him about classical music, and he said, I like it all.
Yeah.
I want to just listen to all of it because I find it's all good somehow, you know. And old ideas, new ideas, I think in a way it's all ideas. But for me, there's toxic ideas and there's cleansing ideas.
Good.
And I don't want to spend my life sitting in a vat of toxic ideas.
Yikes. In fact, what you said is what they asked George Clinton in Parliament Funkadelic, what kind of music you like? He goes, I like the kind of music that pisses me off, and I'm trying to figure out, why does that music piss me off? How can music piss you off? Music's music. But, you know, we all have our biases, like, well, I like this and I like that. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
Yes.
What is it?
It's the sound of a doubler or digital delay dry hitting a golf club, hitting a golf ball, and that whack then going through space for a short time.
Wow.
And I would hear that at night coming from where my sister slept in our house in Hollywood.
Right.
So I would be in a room on the other side of the house. My brother and I shared a room.
Yeah.
And I would hear this sound at night, which was like a, you know, but with that, like a, you know, just like that little doubling. And that's my earliest memory.
You lived near a golf course?
No, it didn't exist. I mean, it existed.
It's a sound you hallucinated.
I was hallucinating sound.
Wow.
Coming from my sister, where she slept, which was way around the other side.
Yeah. That's heavy. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Oh, memory is a blessing.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
In my immediate family, I would say that my mother, my father, and my brother and my 2 sisters.
Wow. So can you just break it down? What's the main thing you got from your mom?
Not that kind of breakdown.
Huh?
For different reasons.
Yeah.
You know,
go ahead.
Artistically, definitely my mother was the big influence for all of us.
Yeah.
She was very schooled and productive and visionary artist.
Yeah.
She did all sorts of things like that, or she did things like every minute of every day was
Yeah.
spent either drawing or painting.
Yeah.
So us kids would get dragged along so she could go paint.
Yeah.
And we'd drive from Hollywood to where I live now in Venice Beach,
Yeah.
where you live too. And she would be painting the pier, or she would be painting people walking on the beach. And we'd just be keeping ourselves busy. And every now and then, if we were smart enough to take advantage of the situation, we would paint too, or
wow, nice.
get a little white statuette and paint that, or do
Yeah.
something creative while our mom was doing something
She
creative.
engaged you with it.
Yeah.
So which the main thing you got from your dad?
Well, what I got different things from my dad. My dad wanted to be an actor, but he never succeeded at it because it was a very difficult thing that he was trying to do. You know, it was like, I don't know if you know many people in that area of show business, the theater actor, but maybe like 1 out of 1,000 make it. So he ended up having to be a breadwinner, you know, like go out and hustle and do whatever, like selling encyclopedias door to door, and eventually working at a department store.
Yeah.
Actually, Saks Fifth Avenue in Beverly Hills, and everything has their connectivity points.
Yeah.
So, I think for all of us kids, we saw how hard he worked and how he had to let go of his dream to do something in order to be a provider.
To be a dedicated dad. That's good.
Yeah.
What's the main thing you got from your brother?
Well, my brother Danny was right there from the very first moments that I wanted to do something creative. In fact, I didn't even want to do it. I was drafted. So because of him, I was playing in this band at a very young age, and I saw how he could just write songs out of nothing or come up with lyrics out of nowhere. And that was very inspiring to me. Later, as he developed, and hopefully as I developed, I saw how he just worked off of intuition.
Yeah.
And this intuition was endless.
Wow.
So I'm still learning from him.
That is beautiful.
Last night I was on the phone with him, and we were talking about movies. And, and, you know, he was trying to think of what is a movie on Christmas that he could watch. And so I suggested Kaltiki, the Immortal Monster. And he said, oh, I saw that one 3 years ago. And I said, 3 years? You should watch that movie at least once a year.
Okay, now you have 2 sisters. What did you get mainly from each sister?
Different things. So I have an older sister, Terry.
Yeah.
And she also wanted to be an actor, or an actress, I should say. And she gave herself, because of my dad, like a time limit of 3 years.
Yeah.
And if she didn't start getting opportunities to read for things, she was going to do something else.
Yeah.
So sure enough, it didn't happen. And she went into the study of psychology and did very difficult work. She was a counselor for people on lifers in San Quentin.
Wow.
And she would counsel them and their spouses. So she did a lot of heavy work. And I always felt with Terry, she's down to earth, and she was much more organized than my brother and I. And she was my big sister. I was always learning about life, like, you know, the top of the tree. There was the top of the tree. And then 7 years younger than me is my little sister, Jeannie, who followed after my mom.
Yeah.
She looked like a little Eskimo when she was born, full head of hair, black hair. And from the very earliest age, she was creative.
Wow. From
like the beginning.
Wow.
And she would sit by my mom and absorb all that painting and drawing and what have you. But she started to do something different. And I know you like these stories, so I'm gonna
Please, I'm
if
for
you
stories. Yeah.
I'm gonna dart into this story
Please.
about Don.
Yeah.
So I think the year was 1969 or so, and somebody had told me that Captain Beefheart lived around the corner from where my parents had then moved in the San Fernando Valley in Woodland Hills. And they actually said, this is the house where Captain Beefheart lives. And so I looked up at this house on a hill. It looked like the archetypal, like Addams Family or Spook House or something. It just looked creepy. And it looked like the kind of place you didn't go up there if you wanted to come back down that hill alive. And so, but nevertheless, both my brother and I were fascinated by the thought that here, right in our own neighborhood, lives this artist that we both were enamored of at the time, Captain Beefheart. Don was his real name. And so we thought, how could we get to know Captain Beefheart? How are we going to break the ice in this situation? Well, my little sister Jeannie was then in the Brownies, which is the earliest incarnation or division of the Girl Scouts. And they do these drives where they have to sell these cookies. Another thing that a lot of haters get down on these days, they don't eat Girl Scout cookies. They're loaded with seed oils and blah, blah, blah. But I think it's great that people buy Girl Scout cookies because it's just something good.
It is good.
Anyway, she had this uniform, this brown uniform with this bandana with all the badges that she had earned for tying knots and making a candle or whatever the kind of silly things they would get badges for. And she had to sell all these cookies. So Danny, my brother, and I, we said, all right, Jeannie, we're going to teach you a song. It's called The Blimp. It's by this musician that lives in this house right over here. And if you can recite this poem from top to bottom, I bet you he'll buy a lot of cookies from you. So she learned The Blimp upside down and backwards. She knew it perfectly. And she had no fear at that time. She was like maybe 7 or something. So she goes up these creaking, winding stairs that were all broken, up the ant hills of Golondrina, and goes to the front door painted red of Don and Jan's house, knocks on the door, and Don answers the door and sees this brownie in uniform holding 2 bags of cookies that just breaks into a full recitation of The Blimp off of his recently released record. And his jaw drops to the floor. And he's, Jan, come quick, Jan. And, it was like he was going to have a coronary. He was so out of his head, It was like whatever kind of crazy, weird shit that he could think of, this one-upped him. He could never imagine a brownie breaking into the Blimp and then wanting to sell him Girl Scout cookies. So obviously they bought all of the cookies that Jeannie had and invited her in, and she's looking around at all this crazy art, like bread sculptings and a sandbag ashtray nailed to the wall with a pile of sand on the floor. And she says, I'm an artist too. And Beefheart says, you are. And so that was the beginning of the friendship. And then he asks her, well, how did you actually come across my song? And how did you do this?
Yeah.
I mean, what happened? And she said, well, my brothers are weird musicians and they taught me the song and told me to come here. And then, so he said, well, bring your brothers over. And that was the beginning of our friendship that lasted for many years with Don and Jan and all the Magic Band at that time.
and you got to hang with them, because that was a beautiful story, and you so well articulated, because I could picture it, because I've seen that. I've gone to that house, and you can see pictures of the Woodland Hills house where Trout Mask replica was made, and there's huge stories about that. Langdon Winter's article in Rolling Stone is monumental in describing all this.
Well, it was the clubhouse for the right down the street from there is a beautiful golf course, old style for the valley, old style golf course. And this was the clubhouse built in the 20s for the elite of that country club. And it had fallen to ruin and then gone through some hands. And eventually, you know, they got a hold of it.
I know. I think if you go there now, the people who own it are really proud, because Bee Park fans always show up and go, "Is this the house?" And they go, "Yeah."
Well, it wasn't like I was there the day that Don and Jan moved out of that house.
Yeah.
And they found another house across the main road on the other side of Golondrina. So they were renting this new place, and they had to get out of that old house. And the young couple that was moving in knew nothing about who he was.
Yeah.
or you know, so he's, you know, trying to get rid of all this stuff. He gave me antenna Jimmy Siemens clarinet and
oh my God,
all these things that they had to get rid of. But he had taken all of the knotty pine cabinet doors off the kitchen cabinets.
Yeah.
And he had painted on them with black paint.
Ooh.
And so the lady of the house, the lady who was moving in, she said, "Where are the cabinet doors?" And Don said, "Lady, if you want those, you have to talk to the curator of the Smithsonian." She was speechless.
Smithsonian Institute blues.
Yeah, she had no response to that at all.
Well,
yeah.
the follow-up question, and we're going to get in music, and you touched on two of your people you've encountered, Ornette and Don. Just briefly, because you've worked with so many great people and you've had encounters with people who aren't necessarily famous. Tell me one person outside your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what was that impact?
Oh, there's so many.
Well, like, name one that comes to the top of your...
Okay, in my early life, I would say it was Govan.
Gogan?
No, Govin. Short for Govinda.
In this a man?
This was a man.
And what did you learn from him? What age are you meeting him?
I guess I met him when I was about 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And Govan taught religious studies at USC. He was a Hindu.
Yeah.
And he was confidant to Gandhi. He was a very big guy, you know, like tall. Yeah. Very tall. I guess looking back on it now, I was quite little, but I would say he must have been at least 6'4" or 5.
Yeah.
And he wasn't heavy, you know, like wasn't fat or anything, but he was statuesque. Yeah. And he would just pick you up and hold you up over his head like you were nothing, like you were a kitten. And he didn't have to say anything. He and his wife just had this presence, you know, and he was like the first heavy spiritual guy that I ever met. You know, he predicted his own death and prepared for it. He stopped eating all food except for romaine lettuce and almonds. And at some point, they saw the writing on the wall and they left Los Angeles. They used to live in the El Royale Hotel. They left LA and they moved to Guatemala City. And they started a taxi company there. And I don't know what happened to him. I mean, I know he passed away, but...
Well, what age, from 2 till what age are you knowing
I would
him?
say 2 till 9 or 10.
Till 10, wow. So did your parents raise you a particular religion?
confusion. Technically, we were supposed to be Jewish, but they were not practicing or observant. And they would always say, well, it's for the grandparents. You have to go to Saturday school.
Oh, yeah.
But the grandparents weren't observant either. So it was kind of like one of the first scams that I was associated with in my life.
God. So you'd say you're culturally Jewish or not even that?
You know, by birth,
yeah.
I happen to think that the Jewish religion is a great and both from the mysterious aspects, the historical aspects. If I were to be back in the beginnings of when that religion started to codify, I'm sure I would be totally enamored by it and be a devout follower.
Amazing. Do you pray?
I pray in a way that's not the same as a Jewish person would be praying in temple or at a wall or something like that. I pray for people that I know and love to support their journey for health and prosperity.
Beautiful. If God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
I guess something like, dang, Greg, we had this chair open in the base section for like 20 years. We've been waiting for you, and you've just been clowning around down there. Finally, you know, all right. I want you to handle all the arco parts, but, you know, if there's some rhythmic thing, just dig in and play as strong as you can.
My favorite word ever, because, you know, 90% of people go, you did a good job or welcome home. But to say, you want God to say, dang. Like that's
he wouldn't say damn.
No,
he wouldn't say damn. Dang. He just, you know, I'm hoping if he is or if I don't know if he's a he or a she or maybe neither.
Yeah.
But one would hope that this word hip would apply to him.
He's probably Goben.
Yeah.
Probably it'd be Goben.
If God is not hip, my world is just crushed. I'll tell you that right off the get-go.
Do evil people exist?
Yes.
Or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Evil people exist.
So really the hidden question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And let me set it up. Alan Watts said, who you played with amazingly, says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Well, let me preface that by saying, I believe somewhere in the script, the Tanaka is the words translated, know thy enemy.
Yes.
So I agree with all of those quotes from that standpoint. Here's where it gets a little fuzzy. I think that all of those quotes have merit and basically I agree with them. But sadly, I've encountered some evil people in my life. And I'm sure everybody has. And it's just an inevitability because it has to do with percentages of how, you know, like even in the animal kingdom, there's evil that can happen, you know, like a rogue chimpanzee that just goes, you know, is it mental illness or is it evil? We don't know where that line is drawn. But sometimes when you can deduce that that person does not have a mental illness or does not have a substance abuse problem, the only thing left is that there's some evil that has either developed in that person
Yeah.
for whatever reason. Sure, my heart goes out to everybody who suffers, but I don't want to spend my life in the smoke trails of that evil.
Yeah.
So sure, I want to know the names and I want to
Yeah.
know enough to avoid it, but I don't want to honor it or hold them close to my breast.
Yeah. Really good, Greg, because Nassim Taleb said games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. Gregory Bateson says if the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he go, oh, I did something morally and socially wrong? So again, it's a lot of prompts. The basic question is, does punishment work?
Okay. Can I preface this one as well?
Please, all you want.
I don't believe in heroes, and I don't agree with the concept of a base level of criminality.
Yeah.
In a way, we're all criminals.
Yeah.
And if we weren't, maybe we wouldn't survive. You know, the survival of the fittest is a criminal action by the definition of law. But that doesn't seem to have much power anymore. But that's another subject. What is a hero? A hero can be, for one person, Albert Einstein, and for another person, James Gandolfi. You know, in a way, we're all heroes, and we all deserve to be honored by something or someone at some point in our life.
Beautiful.
Especially ourselves.
Yeah.
But what I find is more important for this question is what is our character? What is our mental aptitude and our spiritual awareness and our instinctive level tell us that we want to hold on to? Do we really want to chase hero worship?
Yeah.
Do we really want to, you know, if I can cite, I'll finish with this 1 second.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Do we really want to hold on to hero worship? And do we really want to call people criminals because they differ from what our view of morality or what we think the code of life should be?
Yeah.
If you ask somebody like a Charles Bukowski, or if you ask somebody, I mean, you can go down all the way back to the people who are the characters in the Bible and other religious scriptures. They, by today's standards, would be considered criminals.
Yeah.
Yet they wrote the book, or are the characters in the book that people study to be morally clean. Yeah. So I just see criminality as something that needs to be looked at with a fine-tooth comb. And yeah, it's a big subject, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole.
It's like cheating on your taxes or Robin Hood. Steal from the rich and give to the poor. Well, you know, I don't want to encourage stealing, but I think what you're talking about is what's so important in these dialogues that I have is that words, as T.S. Eliot said, when I talk to you, I got to use words. And it's like, no, you don't. But that's the medium we're engaged in now. So we kind of think we know what words mean, and we kind of go along like a collective hunch. Like Lily Tomlin says, reality is a collective hunch. I like, well, same with language and words. It's a collective hunch. We kind of think what we know what heroes is. So I appreciate how you broke that down. But if the criminal does get caught, does punishment work is too general of a question, but you get a gist of it. Like, what do we do?
Well, for me, the biggest crime one can commit is to live your life vacant.
Yeah.
With no hope, with no meaning. You know, because if you say the definition of crime is if you kill somebody, why do we fight wars?
Yeah.
Why have all these millions of people been senselessly murdered?
Yeah.
For for one or two people's idea of what sovereignty should be. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
Sure, there's these heinous actions that happen where somebody comes up to somebody and slays them, and yeah,
Yeah.
For me, that's the saddest thing. But I find it just as tragic to see somebody who, you know, is a shell, who never gets the chance to feel alive. That's a crime to me.
Yeah.
That's a crime against yourself. So that term should be subdivided into about 4 or 5 different terms.
Yeah.
And it is a hard thing to just give a blanket answer for.
Yeah.
But I think that, yeah, morality and criminality and everybody's own credo is a toxic solution to try to push upon your neighbors or your family or your friends, because it just can't work. It will not work, and it can't work. We're all different. We need to learn to accept everybody, to love as much as we can, and not get into the micromanaging or micro destroying of our fellow human beings.
I love that. I love the line. Zappa taught me how to embrace contradiction. He says, you got to love the cops that say beat the shit out of you on the street. Now, he's being a satirist, but there's a lot of deep kind of Eastern philosophy, which he studied in that comment, even though it sounds like, what? So,
yeah, I mean, he's a perfect example of somebody. I mean, a lot of people, same with Don, they could say Frank and Don were evil.
Yeah.
They could be at certain times, but it was only because they were trying to protect their vision, their vision as an artist.
Yeah. Well, that perfect lead-in. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin, Volta Cinema, 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He says, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Why do we have, and years later, Faulkner even nailed it. He said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. So why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Because art and life are two different modalities.
Yeah.
You can have your life dedicated to art, but when you craft art, you're crafting not just for yourself, but for your generation and for generations to come.
Yeah.
So when Kurosawa made a film, or when Matisse made a painting, or when Poe wrote a poem, or when Mozart wrote a violin sonata, sure, they were probably writing it for a purpose. Maybe they were getting paid by some, you know, benefactor or to get bread on the table. But I think in the back of every artist's mind, they know that they're creating, the good ones know that they're too hip for the room. They know that they're not going to be appreciated in a total way in their lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, I know that Don felt this way, and I think Ornette as well.
Yeah.
So you start to create, to leave a legacy of art, a trail. I like to think in terms of cosmology. So I like to think of like a galaxy spiraling, and you might be the sun or some bright object that's within that galaxy. But the tail, the pinwheel effect, what looks like smoke, but which is actually a collection of small lights, is your artistic legacy. And that's different from maybe you getting drunk with one of your friends at the bar in Perpignan or something, and just getting into fights and talking about nothing.
Yeah.
You can be that person, and the next morning wake up and paint like the most magnificent sunflower, or
Yeah.
you know, some field worker or whatever. It doesn't, not everything has to line up and make perfect sense. I mean, you know that about your life. If you're just working in a bank, or if you're working at home on the computer, or whatever it is you might be doing, it does not line up and make sense all the time. Why should artists have to make sense all the time? And why should their lives be reflections of their work?
Really well put, Greg, because you have ESP, or as they say in some movie, you have ESPN.
I'm just psychotic.
Yeah, but this is a screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly. Wait, I said it backwards. I'm sorry. Let me start over.
That's very Kubrickian of
yeah,
you to
that's
do that.
very. A screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker.
Mm-hmm.
Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process? When you're writing a Greg song, it's not a commission. It's not someone saying, write the song. It's just Greg writes a composition. What role does intention play?
A huge role.
Okay.
I think intention leads to invention. And it's taken me a long time to get to this place, but I need to have a system, or a series of systems, to keep me from doing the same thing over and over again. Many artists get trapped in this sameness pattern, using a blueprint or a chassis that you can hang things on. You might use the same chassis and have different color fabric or different color steel or whatever it is adorning it, like with the automotive industry. I find it a bit dangerous as an improviser, because most of us are writing, Ornette told me this. He said, I write music so we have something to improvise to.
Yeah.
And I would have to agree with that statement for myself, that when I write something, I want it to be like creating a playground for people to have activities in.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do the same thing that I did last time.
Yeah.
So before I even get to that point of the discovery process, or the creative discovery process, I'm working on systems to keep myself from going to the same place that I did before.
Yeah.
So because of Ornette and working with Ornette, I came up with this theory that I call the third rail, which is a way of coming up with your own language or your own lines to interpret somebody else's music. Like it could be an old song, or it could be a new composition, or it could be your own composition, in a way that does not rely on the main melody or the main accompaniment line. So in other words, you have the melody up at top usually, then you have a bass line or something that represents counterpoint down below.
Yeah.
The third line is supposed to be something that lives in the middle, or the third rail.
Yeah.
And normally what's taught in jazz schools and by a lot of improvisers is that you use guide tones based off of harmony. Guide tones.
Oh, guide tones. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
And I just saw this as another trap of jazz. And one of the things that I didn't like about jazz, because of this sameness factor.
Yeah.
So I said, what if you took the resonance between the melody and the bass line or the accompaniment line, and found that line in between based off of your emotional connection with those two pitches, or with those two parts of melody. So each note that you create is not based off of logic, but it's based off of emotion.
Yeah.
So, in other words, you cannot escape being you for the third rail. The third rail is all about being you. So, if you think the nature of the melody is something that could make you cry or something that can make you laugh, you can express that in the third line in such a way that it's not the same as the melody, but it enhances that. Or maybe you decide you have to work against it and take it in the opposite. You know, if it's dark, you want to create light. So you go through the whole composition, getting this third rail. And once you have that third rail, you can turn it around and think of it like notes that stack into a chord, or you can invert it, or you can take a pitch set, which might be 6 notes, and then come up with a reflective set that's the total opposite of that. So you use those modes for improvisation and for compositional development. So this is one system that I've explored. Another one has to do with...
But you made it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one has to do with the construction and dissection of triangles, because triangles can kind of represent everything, even a circle.
Yeah.
So if you can think of your ideas in terms of a triangle, simply put, like in a lot of popular musics, jazz being one of them, if you think of melody, harmony, and rhythm, if you thought that there was a piece, you know, where all of the components are equal, let's say that Bobby Timmons song, Moanin'.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd say all the components are equal in that song. Then you'd have an equilateral triangle.
Yeah.
So you'd start working with that equilateral triangle and creating other triangles within it, bisecting that triangle to create variations. Maybe another piece of music is very much rhythm oriented. So the longest angle of the triangle is going to be rhythm.
Yeah.
The shortest angle of the triangle might be harmony.
Yeah.
And then the next longest angle might be melody.
Yeah.
So you get these importance factors and you create triangles with them. And then once you create the triangles, you almost create like a mobile of other triangles that are mirrored off of those first triangles until you have this whole mobile spinning around, which is your kind of cosmic playground to interpret the song or the music.
Yeah. Really good, because you're going exactly where we're leading towards music. And I'm going to get into deeply what you just said, but I wanted to interject this one quickly. Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your listener when you're writing an original Greg piece?
Well, okay, here it gets dicey again with simplistic definition, because hopefully part of the listening public is also the members of your band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they need to be listening as if it's a performance to what I'm doing and what they're doing, and hopefully what the band is doing as a whole.
Yeah.
And putting themselves in the audience so that they can experience that as well. So I see us all in the same boat. You know, we are the passengers in this ship that sails, which is the concert.
Really good. McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness. Knife and fork extends our teeth. Shutter in a camera extends our eyelid. Maybe non-tangible, say religion or philosophy, extends consciousness. What does the bass extend for you? What humanness?
Our ability to leave our body.
To leave our body, yeah. So, Greg, this is a question regarding that tipping point. Your brother's 8-ish, you're 6-ish. We're playing garage rock, dude, and he just gives you the bass guitar and say, here, you play this. You didn't say, could I try bass? It was sort of like put in your lap more.
Kind of. Well,
Kind.
I wanted to play the drums, but
Yeah. Oh, that was your desire.
yeah, my desire all along was to, as soon as I heard my mom playing guitar and then my brother playing guitar, I wanted to play drums.
Yeah.
But I'm 6 years old, my brother's 8, and the other 2 kids are 10.
Yeah.
So one of the 10-year-olds said, yeah, you can play the drums, but you got to beat me up. Well, I didn't play the drums.
Because he wanted to be
He wanted to be the drummer.
Oh my God. So when did you know from that point that music and the bass guitar was your calling for your life?
I didn't play the bass guitar in the beginning.
Okay, but where's your tipping point? Just not even, let's say, being a bassist.
Mm-hmm.
But where's your tipping point that music is your calling for the rest of your life? Was
this
it there?
This is going to sound tragic, but I'll tell you anyway. So I started out playing a little organ, this chord organ, because that's all that was left, really.
Yeah.
You know, the guitarist's dad played music, so he had his dad's guitar. But then we found out his dad had this other guitar. It was an old Gibson acoustic electric thin body. And I tuned it down like a fourth. And then I played bass on that. So that was my first bass guitar.
Yeah.
I guess that was when I was about almost 7 years old.
Yeah.
And then maybe when I was 8, I bought my first electric bass guitar. It was a Dan Electro.
Wow. But is this right then where you're saying my calling for the rest of my life is, did it come to you that was your calling at that point, or was it in your 20s?
I definitely heard the calling then.
Yeah.
That if I keep playing music, I'll probably end up dead, because every time, I didn't know anything about music. All I knew back then was every time I made a mistake, I would get hit by one of the older kids. So if I played the wrong note, I'd get slapped. And so I figured, okay, I got to keep doing this to be kind of like hanging out with all these older kids. But if I keep doing it too long, I'll just end up crumbling, falling to the ground and keeling over and withering away. But somehow, the more I played, the more I realized that I didn't know what the notes were called. I didn't know what harmony or anything was, but I knew this feels like a note that I won't get hit for.
Yeah.
So I just kept going towards the notes that I wouldn't get hit for. And that became my first teacher. And so in a way, I wanted to do the opposite of music. If I could, I would have ran away from it, but I didn't want to run away from this group of kids that I grew up with. And I would say it wasn't until I got into high school that I took up the double bass that I decided I would really like to do this. I remember playing in the orchestra for the first time, and we did a sort of a abridged version of Stravinsky's Berceuse and Finale from the Firebird Suite.
Yeah.
And I just remember this feeling of empowerment.
Yeah.
You know, when I came down on it, you know, it's like I was like a earth mover or something.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, if I don't do this, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So
beautiful.
That's one of the big moments I remember.
Really well put. What's the function of music?
Well, it has many functions, and it doesn't have to have any function.
Yeah.
So as a historical function, maybe music was the first function was communication.
Yeah.
To have drums communicate across the mountaintops and let people know that the hunting season's here, or that there's a tribe coming from the west that's dangerous. Yeah. You know, so music's had many functions, including communication, evocation, dance, all sorts of things. So I would say for me, it didn't have those things. I didn't have to worry about like a dangerous tribe coming from the West, or I didn't have to. I never was a good dancer, although I appreciated it. I didn't have to worry about those things. So the function of music for me was to escape the banalities of life.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to read. I've been doing this for years, writing them down, and you can step up to the plate and says, "Oh, let me expound on that," because you touched on some of the majors. The first one is Igor Stravinsky gave lectures that music means nothing. There's no function of music. John Cage said, to soothe the soul and make it susceptible for divine intervention. Mickey Hart said, just as you said in his book, The Dead Drummer, warning, survive better. Hunting. Here's the hunting season. Really well put. Third one I have is dance. Dylan, you already, Dylan Buston, you said that. Norman Zamchuk, to keep us from going insane.
I would agree with that.
David Moss, the sound of being alive.
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes into entertainment, pleasure, nostalgia, express creativity, connection, community, ceremony, ritual, learning, stir emotion. All those you really touched on in communication. Brett Fisher, Claire Fisher's son, self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Healing. This is the one that gets me. My friend said the function of music is to hypnotize people to be themselves.
I can dig that. And a major.
What does that mean, to hypnotize people to be themselves?
In other words, you take them out of their context, their bubble.
Yeah.
And after a while, just going into that zone of the music, they forget about the facade that they're trying to create as a human being and just get down to the nitty-gritty reality of who they are.
That is good.
But I have to extend what I said a little.
Please.
Because, and this might sound a little hippy-trippy to you. I apologize if it does. But I believe that as a living entity, whether we're human or animal, birds or fish or whatever, we're a part of vibration and resonance that is equal. All things are equal within the universe. And we eventually go back to the resonance of that universe.
Yeah.
And I would say, for me, perhaps the most important function of music is that we can reach towards that resonance of the universe. In other words, that there is no hierarchy of an artist or a critic or an audience member or whatever. Yeah. We're all part of the same resonance in the universe. And at best, the creation of our musics can reach towards that final event.
Amazing. McLuhan's got a great quote that was his mantra. The Balinese have no word for art. They do everything as well as they can. And when I said that to David Moss, who said music is the sound of being alive, he says, oh, that's what the New Guinea people do. They have no word for music. They just do everything. Is that sort of what you're touching on? Music is just this universal. It's Corla Panda touched on it too.
Yeah, I would say it's at least a third of the world.
It's at least
a third of the planet feels that way.
Yeah.
It's only in the West that we have this idolization of artists and putting people on pedestals.
Yeah.
We're all scum in a way, we're all
we
brilliant.
Are all scum.
Yeah, we're all scum and we're all brilliant and we're all worthy of examination and worship. And at some point it breaks down to the doing. You have to create and do something to have it be a member of the play.
Yeah.
To be a player. So
that's That's the Monty Python film. Guy's in front of a big audience and he goes, "Repeat after me. We are all individuals." And the whole crowd goes, "We are all individuals." And then one guy in the back goes, "I'm not." And in the long run, you got to watch the extras or something. Someone told me the extra did that out of his. It wasn't in the script.
That's beautiful.
And the director went, "Keep that."
Yeah.
I'm not. That's like, you nonconformists are all alike. So I asked for 90 minutes. Can you go longer?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's look at it out there.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get drenched on my bike.
So I really appreciate this. It's really fun. And you touched on this without me going into it.
Man, this looks like the Dead Sea Scrolls you got here. How many times have you?
Look at these edges. Yeah, people never see those edges. Look at the edges of the script. Okay, so this is exactly what you were talking about.
The man is rehearsed. He's got his thing down.
Copeland says the 4 ingredients or elements of music are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color.
Yeah.
Now, you actually touch. Yeah, please stretch. You actually brought that in. I know there's more than those 4 elements, but let's just say of those 4 elements, melody, harmony, and rhythm, and tone color, you touched on 3 of them in your
triangle.
That is called your triangle theory. What is?
Well, it's just a new thing that I'm working on.
Okay. So let's call it the triangle theory.
Let's call it the triangular mobile.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Triangular mobile. And okay, so you touched on what is tone color in non-academic terms. Oh, show it to the camera. So that's a crystal with white and black. What are we looking at?
So you just said this is crystal in white and black. Yet if you looked at it with stronger light, you'd see that it's not just white and black. That there's
some yellow?
There's a bunch of colors in here.
Oh, okay.
And the fact that there's transparent crystal means that there's every color in here.
Okay.
And tone color, like vibration and like light, can and should be fluid. So I think it's a bit of a tragedy when this is for you, by the way.
Oh, thank you. But can you tell me, what does the word fluid mean in that sense?
Well, tone color, if you're playing on a real instrument and not just reproducing a tone electronically,
yeah,
there's no way the tone color can be the same all the time. When you take a bow and put it onto a string and draw that bow across the string, you're going to have a certain tone color that shifts as the bow gets closer or farther away from the bridge, or when you dig in more into the string, or as the string oscillates with division of the nut and the bridge of the string instrument. Same thing with the reed on the saxophone, or an embouchure on a trumpet, or how the human voice works with all the different apparatus that the singer must use, and the diaphragm and what have you. The tone color is changing all the time.
Yeah.
So I see it like nature, like how nature created those stones. There's color in them, there's form in them. The texture and the form also influence the color because it influences how light passes through form. And every time light is obscured or highlighted, the vibrational aspect changes.
Yeah. Really good. So now you've played on 3 John Zorn albums. Is that correct?
I did?
Yeah, that you told me that.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, you played on a lot. You played on a lot of albums from a lot of great musicians, but a lot with John Zorn for many years. Your take on his sensibility in integrating those four elements, melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. Is he favoring kind of one over the other? Is there some sort of ritual or routine? Like you're trying to say, how do you break out of those rituals, routines, or even Ornette or any of them? How does the composer know how to juggle those four elements?
Every composer does it differently.
Yeah.
And they don't all concern themselves with those elements. That, you know, I think every creative force out there wants to find their own recipe.
Yeah.
And you know, although I've known John Zorn for a long time, I believe and I hope that he will keep changing as long as he keeps writing and performing.
Yeah.
And maybe I can compare him a bit to Duke Ellington in the sense that he's writing music for himself and for a group of improvisers that he can rely on.
Yeah.
But every now and then he's also writing concert music, which is music that is not to be improvised to,
Yeah.
but is to be played by an orchestra or a individual or a chamber ensemble. The principles have a point where they come together, which is his inherent wisdom of music, you know, from listening to tens of thousands of recordings and to listening to, you know, I don't know how many thousands of performances from the time he was young to the point where he just started to workshop his abilities as a performer and a composer. So he keeps evolving, and that evolution is going to use the components of music differently all the time.
Yeah.
Because he's in need of exploring and not going back and doing the same thing he did the year before, or 5 years before, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Then there's the side of Zorn that's the saxophonist who maybe wants to experience that freedom and that sort of just looser aspects of soloing and interpreting line and not having to think about being this genius composer,
Right.
but just like blowing, as we say,
Just blowing. Yeah.
so there's a lot of strings on every individual
That's
who's
really
working as a composer and
Yeah.
a performer.
That's really well put, because Thelonious Monk says music is math, and in a way, what you're saying is when John writes a concert piece, he puts a score in front of people, and there's less improv. And then when he writes for his other groups that are improv, it's like, okay, here's a structure, now improv. And Don Preston, who you played with from Mothers of Invention in many years, he's still playing in mid-90s. He said, when I asked him all these questions, don't think. And it's like, yeah, good luck. How do you not think when you're improvising? Because you have this Rolodex of licks in your head, and you're going to like talk about that act of improvising. How do you not fall back on the licks you love?
Well, I think that's a great catch phrase, don't think, because in a way, thinking is the enemy when you're trying to be in the moment and creating.
Yeah.
You know, so I dig what Don had to say in that moment.
Yeah.
But I also know that he does his homework and he studies, you know, like he loves Bud Powell and all sorts of people that there's no way he could not play that music without some thought process and exploration.
It's really good.
I want to share with you something that I came
ahead.
across the other day. So this is the 1983 Los Angeles Music Union Local 47 directory. It has in it the names and the numbers of, I'm just going to flash this so no one sees anything, of many great musicians, not just musicians that lived in LA, but musicians that worked in LA. So it's just like a who's who of, you know, you
Oh, I
could
bet.
open any page and find some very important people that you probably listened to for many years.
For many years.
But I've written some things on the cover of this. But one thing I find interesting is over here is a list of bass subs that I could call back then.
Right.
In
Putter Smith.
1983.
Oh, I love Putter.
Here's the list: Putter Smith, Monty Budwig, Roger Spencer, Luther Hughes, Harvey Newmark, John Patitucci, Leroy Vinegar.
Oh my God.
All
That
of
is
this,
a list.
all these people in 1983 in Los Angeles, I could have conceivably called to sub for me on a gig, which now when I look at these names, I say, you know, John Patitucci, Leroy Vinegar, you know, a lot of them aren't with us anymore, but still, you know, this is maybe one of the things that I love most about music is this camaraderie.
Yes.
And this feeling like, you know, all right, brother, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
You know, you can't make your gig for whatever reason. I can cover for you. You know, where is it? What does it pay? Is the leader a drag?
that is the camaraderie word is such a great, it's community, it's family, you know.
And then on the back side here is the phone number for Fishman Electronics with, you know, an actual phone number. So when pickups first started to get a little bit more advanced,
I
actually called the place that was making a lot of these next level bass pickups and asked them what they were making and if they could make something for me. So yeah, it's just kind of like a great way of going back and seeing here Scott Colley, Scotty Young, you know, like
what amazing. And I wanted to ask you just what you just said, Greg. I heard years ago that when jazz bass players got amplified, drummers lost all their subtlety because they had to hit harder. Now, I might have asked you this before because I talked to a drummer who played with Billie Holiday and Charlie Parker and Charlie Hayden. No, it was a drummer. And he says, yeah, you can stick me up and brush me off. The whole subtlety of brushes kind of got lost because what's your take on that line that when bass players, stand-up bass players were amplified, subtlety in jazz drumming changed?
Everything changed.
Yeah.
Subtlety of bass playing changed. The function of the guitar changed. The way that pianists or keyboard players approach their instruments changed. The subtlety of the horn section changed.
Yeah.
You know, like if you listen to classic Lester Young recording or, you know, like Billie Holiday is a great example. You know, you listen to what the piano's doing, bass is doing, the drums, it might be a trumpet, a tenor saxophone. You can hear the independence on each one of those musical forces.
Yeah.
You know, and you can also hear tone quality or tone color.
Yeah.
In a very specific way that is fluctuating, but still there's the wood in the acoustic piano.
Yeah.
There's the wood in the double bass. There's the calfskin head being activated and then the envelope decaying from the drum and the quality of the cymbal and the type of beater that's hitting the bass drum from the foot, the pick technique and the actual acoustic quality of the guitar, you know, so that sound is going into the rhythm section, jung, jung, or whatever, you know, they're doing. Electronics crept into popular music slowly, going back to actually the 20s, you know, but in the 30s, it really started to take shape, you know. And by the 40s, people were using amplification for guitar and for bass, and having public address systems, you know. So if you played a big dance, the vocalist had a microphone that was going out over this public address system. The bass, I mean, I tell you a little story if I can. You got
Please.
time? Yeah, you got time. I found out about this very rare K bass. K was a company in Chicago that made instruments of all kinds, but they made basses, and pretty good ones. They were made out of plywood, but this particular one was made the first year that they ever made a bass, 1937. And it was called a pancake bass because it was so thin. It was half the thickness of the ribs. So it was just thin enough you could put it on top of a van filled with a bunch of instruments and such. And this bass was owned by a guy in Wisconsin. His name was Belonger. I forget his first name. And his daughter, Julie, had put in this ad to sell his bass because he'd passed away. Well, he lived in Wisconsin and he played a lot of polka bands and things like this. But during the war, the bass player for Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys got drafted, and he went off to serve in combat. So this man, Mr. Belonger, got the gig with Bob Wills and moved to Texas with this bass. And how he got the bass, you know, beforehand was an interesting story. He was playing in some polka band, and this elderly woman was there at the performance and came up and just was infatuated with the bass and this guy, and said, you know, I think you're great, and I would like to give you a present. You can have any bass. If you want to buy a bass, I will pay for your bass. You can choose one and I'll pay for it. And so he went to, you know, being close to Chicago, he went to Kay and said, I want to get a bass, but I want something a little special. I have this patron who's going to buy it for me. So he picked out this Swingmaster thin line or pancake bass, and in it was all of the most recent developments for making it louder, because he, you know, was playing in these big situations. So he had one of the first pickups, which was made by Ampeg, the guy who started Ampeg, which was literally a microphone in the top of the peg, therefore Ampeg. It was like the very top of the end pin inside the bass had this microphone, and then a wire going down the hollow stem of the end pin, and then that went to an amplifier. So when I bought this bass, it had an old DeArmond pickup on it. It had this Ampeg microphone in it, and it was just like a timepiece. It was straight out of 1940. And I flew from New York to Midway Airport in Chicago to meet this woman, Julie, who drove from Wisconsin with the bass.
Yeah.
I had an empty bass case with me, a flight case, and the weather started getting rough, in the words of Gilligan's Island, and it really started to snow while I was there talking to Julie. So I quickly packed up the bass, put a soft case on it, packed it into this flight case, and I caught the last flight out of Midway before they closed the airport back to New York. And then over the next year or so, the good people at David Gage helped me to bring this bass back to playing condition. So yeah, that was a way for me to appreciate how the electronic legacy of the bass developed. Now, I actually rely on amplification now that I'm older. I used to play a lot of gigs acoustically, but it's not so easy when you're an old geezer to fight the sound of a loud drum kit 5 horns, everything going through a PA, and you being totally acoustic, because the idea of being acoustic is cool somehow. If everybody else in the band's acoustic, sure, I can hang with it for a while. And if the instrument's set up so that it speaks well acoustically, along with the aspects of adding the pickup, came lowering the action. And one of the great saxophonists, who was it? I think it was Gene Ammons, who said, and this is in the late 60s, he said, or early 70s, he said, nowadays bass players go zoom, zoom, zoom instead of doom, doom, doom. So in other words, the pluck or the percussiveness of the finger hitting the string, boom, got lost with the pickup and the action being so low, and it just became woo, 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 woo. So a lot of the old school jazz players, especially horn players, didn't like that. They wanted the bass to be felt and to lock in with certain components of the drums. I always felt I agreed with this, but sometimes it's just not practical. And then for some music, you know, and for some leaders, they really want the bass loud. So I will do whatever I have to do to make the gig work.
But you played bass for Tom Waits for 20 years. It was always stand-up bass.
It was mostly stand-up bass. I played electric as well. Okay.
So my friend says the 3 T's of music are technique, theory, and taste. Technique, you've learned how to play the bass. Theory, you know the structures. How does one acquire taste?
Through their taste buds.
Well, it is an amazing thing, because you were talking about it earlier, almost saying we think with our gut.
Yeah.
Now they're saying your stomach's part of your thinking process. But
well,
here's what most people say. Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to answer your question. Yeah. You're assuming that some people do acquire taste.
Well, that's exactly it's me and you psychoanalyzing the wording on the question. So that's exactly it. But
I mean, just because you're a musician, doesn't mean you have taste.
Yeah.
I've played a lot of jobs where I just sort of, I'm rolling my eyes, not because the people can't play, you know, usually they're very good, but the taste factor makes you feel like the music is going backwards. It's setting the whole evolution of music backwards instead of forwards. So that's the danger for me. Taste, although I don't know exactly what it means, but the idea of playing in such a way where invention and the care that's needed to really make it sound like you're playing with love, if those things aren't there, it's just like doing anything by rote.
Yeah. It's really good what you said there, because most people, I go, how do you acquire taste? And they go, exposure, experience. And I think that there's a little more to it, but who knows? It's like you're exposed. Like Igor Stravinsky says, most people don't know what they like. They like what they know.
Yeah.
So, you know, if all you're fed is classic rock, then you're going to say, what do you like? And they'll go, I like this one and not that one. Well, there's a lot more than that. But this word taste, I wanted you to weigh in on this, Greg, and I appreciate it. McLuhan's saying 2 things here, but basically, I'll read it to you. This is Marshall McLuhan. Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. So any thoughts on that?
Part of that's true.
What part is true and what part do you not?
Well, it's the syntax, you know, like in poetry, you have trope, you know, or cadence.
Yeah.
You all have cadence in music too. You also have trope, actually.
Yeah.
But that cadence and trope has to do with the language that you're speaking in.
Yeah.
So popular music and music for the divination of the spirit, whether it be, you call it church music or whatever, oftentimes incorporated language.
Yeah.
So if you think of music from the, you know, the time from Jesus Christ to the present day, much of it is based in singing some kind of gospel, whether it be a popular gospel of like saying, all right, let's come together, let's, you know, treat your fellow humans well, let's worship this, you know. So there's a bunch of different languages that you do that in, going back to before people were singing in Italian and before people were singing in French. So how that syntax of the earlier languages worked, I don't know. A lot of it is mysterious to me,
Yeah.
because I'm not a linguist. But I do think that it has something to do with it, but not everything to do with it. So once more with your original question.
Well, it's the McLuhan quote, and it's funny because the first part throws people off sometimes, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree with him. He says, "Song is slowed down speech."
Okay, let's start
Yeah,
there.
go ahead.
So song is slowed down speech.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Song, there's such thing as song without words.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how I think of songs the most.
Yeah.
Obviously, I love speech and I love text, right, and I love many things that go along with the whole process of putting an instrument and a voice or a narrative together to create art. That goes without saying.
Yeah.
But it requires these two things to be intertwined too much for me to agree with it.
Yeah. No, it's good because you really touched on something that I love to ask, and I'm going to tell you my theory too, but tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh.
Tico Tico.
It's actually, that is so good. I love Tico Tico.
It has words too, but
you know, Frank Zappa wrote a song called "Why Does It Hurt When I Pee?" And he goes, "This is a mixture of Tico Tico and a British pomposity, or orchestral pomposity." And I'm like, "What is Tico?" And it made me go look up Tico Tico. I didn't know what it was, and then I heard it, and it taught me music literacy, you know. But in studying James Joyce, we learned this thing that he was afraid of thunder. His aunt or whatever happened, the thunder, and he'd be afraid. Some Joycean world says that's where humans invented language. They heard the sky rumbling and they go, oh, we can rumble too, or we can invent words and sounds. And this is a flip on biomimicry. And humans, Messiaen, for instance, listened to the birds and said they're in Eric Dolphy right here in LA. This is what's your biggest influence? It says the crickets and the birds. And so
Sun Ra too.
Sun Ra too, exactly. And we have, but my theory is that maybe humans whistled first and then birds imitated humans. And they're like, no way. But we don't know. We can't tell, who was first making sounds for an aesthetic or for a warning system or whatever,
But maybe there doesn't have to be a first.
There isn't. Yeah. Well, that's
it's like this this famous bow maker who really revolutionized how the violin and all string instrument bows were made was a guy named Francois Xavier Tourt. And he, as it sounds, was a French man.
Yeah.
And he took all the evolutionary aspects of the bow and pimped the ride to the point where it just became like like what Stradivari had done with the violin.
Yeah.
But so everyone says, okay, Francois Tourt is the guy who was responsible for the modernization of the violin bow,
Yeah.
making it the way it is, what everybody uses today.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and unbeknownst to either one of them, there was this dude in London or in England
Yeah.
named John Dodd,
Yeah.
who was doing pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
And they didn't correspond, and they didn't have any way of knowing what the other one was doing.
Yeah.
But they just both happened upon those evolutionary aspects of how to make that
Yeah.
tool for the violin or the cello or the viola or the bass better.
Exactly.
Much like the way that the snow monkeys evolved on two different sides of this island off the coast of one of the islands in Japan.
Yeah.
And learned how to use coconut shells as tools and all these things at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, was it something that was cosmically transmitted through the subconscious, or
Or is it in the zeitgeist?
yeah?
It's like Farnsworth and Baird inventing TV. He did in America, Baird did in England. And
Mhm.
you go, yeah, I'm not into first, but I will ask people first questions as a way to prompt discussion.
Yeah.
So get the knowledge. But I agree with you 100%.
So I don't think it's as important
Yeah.
which came first.
Yeah.
You know, the birds, the humans whistling or the birds in a way, it's, a bird does what a bird does.
Yeah.
Because they're designed to be a very streamlined
Yeah.
operation.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about taxes. They don't have to worry about impressing somebody with their wine cellar. They don't have to worry about any of this stuff. Maybe their plumage,
Yeah.
that's it. Like, once a year, my plumage better be hot, or else, no chance at the dance. But it's us humans that put ourselves in this position where we have to impress people, and we have to have songs and whistles and all sorts of decorations to keep from just being a blob of flesh that's croaking in the woods.
Okay, what's more fundamental, Greg? Music or language?
For me, it's music.
Yeah.
For somebody else, it'll be language.
Yeah. Now, I have a whole bunch more music questions and philosophical questions. You want to go a little more, or you want
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's keep going. This is in regards to time signature. Why is 4/4 time the most commonly used time signature in Western music?
So, how many times in your life have you encountered a three-legged horse?
Oh, never.
Never?
But dogs, I see them. I see three-legged dogs.
Yeah. In music, getting back to this trope, a lot of again, we're going back to dance.
Yeah.
Because a lot of music was hewn from the experience of movement.
Yeah. And
us humans mimic the movements that came before us.
Yeah.
So this clippity clop, movement, or even how a sea creature might move through the ocean.
Yeah.
It's more commonly seen in a context of 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Like dancers always use the 8 count. They count to 8 to create all their patterns in modern dance. Contemporary musicians will look down at me for saying this, because for most musicians, it's considered a learning curve tool to be able to play in 13 and 11. And if you look at the folk music of Bulgaria or Romania, you'll see a lot of their dance musics and primary musics being in 7 and 11 and 13. So I can only deduce from that they had a lot of 11-legged spiders. No, they don't think of it that way. It's our Western mind, or our like, when I say Western, I don't mean American mind or English American mind that sees those beats as being in 7 or 11 or 13. To them, it's a long, you hold it a little bit longer or you cut it off a little bit shorter. And I don't think in their mind they're thinking 7/8 or 11/8 or 13/8 so much going back to the early days of their folk music. It was more about that beat accompanying a certain kind of dance.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to read you a couple of these observations and you can react. Frank Zappa said, "It is unnatural to play in 4/4 because you don't speak in 4/4."
Okay, so can I go into dangerous territory here?
Of course.
Because I know you're a Zappa-phile.
No, I'm fine.
I mean, I loved Frank Zappa's music when I was younger. I still think he wrote great music. But not all of the music from the pen of Mr. Zappa is what my go-to music is.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I find his odd time signature music to be finalized or encapsulated, almost choked by its own system.
Yeah.
Because he's thinking too much of the numbers and not enough about the dance.
What's the second word?
He's thinking about the numbers, like,
and not the
dance.
Oh, not the dance. Yeah.
So unlike the Hungarian, Romanian, and Bulgarian musics and all over the world, really, that use odd time signatures as a way of having ceremony and celebration.
Yeah.
Zappa wasn't doing that. He was taking more of an intellectual approach. So every kind of division, how you wanted to put the accent, let's say you're playing in, he'd have a lot of different time signatures shifting.
Probably, yeah.
So maybe on the 7, it was like hit on 3, hit on 5, and then hit on 6.
Yeah.
It could be any number of subdivisions of that odd time signature as it goes into different bars. That was very different than how Don used odd time signatures. Beefheart, who didn't really know what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he just felt things in a different way. And then it was up to the two guys on drums to really hash out.
Two meaning Drumbo, John French
and Artie Tripp.
And Art Tripp. Yeah, that's what I thought. Because I'm going to go into both into our Drumbo, John French in particular, because you probably knew him or still know.
I didn't really know.
Okay. But you know what Don was doing with time signature. Yeah. Let me just finish on Frank and then we'll go into Don. But Frank is saying we don't speak in 4/4. I'm just curious, is that something you say is accurate? It's unnatural to play in 4/4 because we don't speak in 4/4.
I don't agree.
Okay, you don't agree. Okay.
And this is also getting to the point of Zappa's music, which now at this point in my life, I have a hard time with.
Yeah.
He's maybe not allowing for the pauses.
Yeah.
You could say that great line from The Dresser, "Stop that train." You could say that's 3, but it's really "Stop that train." Boom.
Nice.
So that's 4.
Yeah.
Because the cadence has to include the rest.
What is that? Stop that train from?
The movie The Dresser.
Oh, The Dresser. Okay.
Albert Finney.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay, now that this is, before I go into Don, I wanted to mention other things. Besides this, what some people explain 4/4 time being commonly used. Besides being intuitive and easy, it might be because it's in sync with walking and marching. And that's what you sort of talked about. Wayne Pete told me, because you have 2 hands and you have 2 feet, 4/4 times. So that walking, marching might be the point. The other thing they say is it's our heartbeat rhythm. Do you think our heartbeat is in time signature?
You got to ask my doctor about that.
But your hunch or your guess?
My heartbeat keeps changing. So and a lot of people's do. So if you have arrhythmia, or if you have any kind of blood pressure issues, you're it's not going to always be 58 or 60 or whatever.
Right.
And why should we be any different than somebody who was living in 1740 or 1820 or whenever, 1910? So we can say by principle the heartbeat is 60, and so
Is 60.
Yeah. So if you think of a quarter note being 60 beats per minute, and that being like dum 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 dum, there is some kind of logic there, but
that the heartbeat might kind of be in 4/4 time.
Well, not necessarily in 4/4 time, but you can suggest
it, because someone said no, it's in 5/8 time, it's in 3/4 time, it's in 6/8. So we don't know what the heartbeat rhythm is.
I think hopefully each one of us, our heartbeat has its own rhythm.
Yeah.
And this whole concept of 4/4 versus non 4/4 time, to me, is a bit ridiculous.
It is ridiculous,
because this is just my own philosophy, but I like to operate. My operating system when I perform is by comparison.
Yeah.
So if I need to memorize a piece of music, or kind of look at a page with a bunch of chicken scratch and interpret it really quickly and memorize what I saw when I could still see, I use a series of relationships. So I say, okay, this reminds me of this, which is in 5, or this reminds me, of the theme from Mannix, or one silly thing or another. So it stays in my mind as a comparison.
It's good,
because it's so out of context sometimes just to look at a piece of paper like this and know what that means. It might not mean anything to you in the heat of battle, but your memory, or your comparative memory, has a relationship all of a sudden.
Dude, they asked McLuhan, and we're going to go into silence next. They asked McLuhan, will there ever be silence? And he says, things don't exist on their own. They only exist in relationship. So that's what you're saying. That's really beautiful process you take by comparison and relationship. Let me just read you what Don said about 4/4 time, and then you can jump up on this. Beefheart varied from what he called the mama heartbeat. He said that beat, the same old 4/4 rhythm, is related to fascism. It's so fixative, so hypnotic, so synthesized, it's dangerous to the heart. Disco is faster than the heart. It's dangerous. He wanted non-hypnotic music to break up the catatonic state. John French expanded on this drunken sailor stagger in his drumming, and it's sort of like what Buster Keaton did, where he turned a stumble into a dance. But any thoughts on Don's calling 4/4 time fascist, blah, blah, blah?
I don't agree with that at all. First of all, Don was a very important person in my life.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. And I admired him and I learned from him. But he was a troubled soul, and I think, not unlike Zappa, he relied on shocking you with these kinds of comparisons or these allegories.
Yeah.
To make you think about what it is you're listening to or doing or how you're creating.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that all of it was founded in logic or even experience. One of his biggest influences was Howlin' Wolf, which almost always was in 4/4.
Yeah.
So how can he be saying that the music of Howlin' Wolf, which was like the feeding grounds for his beginnings, was fascist?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
But how about you're sitting there as a teenager, a young kid, listening to Coltrane and Steve Reich,
Mhm.
And what stood out in having listening sessions with him in regards to time signature? Anything else?
Sure. I mean, at that time, Don was really into Ornette, and Ornette supersedes time signature because really the bar line becomes invisible. The bar line just, it's almost like it is atomic particles that are zapped by some kind of radiation device, and they just crumble down onto the floor.
That I could really visualize.
You know, whereas Zappa, the bar lines were very much there.
Yeah.
And Beefheart, even on some pieces not, but on some pieces you can hear the bar line.
Yeah.
But with Ornette, you start out a piece, and honestly, you know, if you're thinking in terms of bar lines, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You know, you have to, it's like a magic carpet. You just have to get on that magic carpet. And wherever it goes, that's where you go.
Really good. Magic carpet. Now.
So I don't agree with Don in that sense.
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of what he said to me privately and in public, but that I don't see the merit in it.
Yeah.
And I don't think of 4/4 as being militaristic or fascist.
Yeah.
It has been.
Yeah.
But the Nazis and the fascists used a lot of music that was in 6/8 and 3/4 and all sorts of time signatures other than 4/4, based off of the dictator's whims.
Yeah. I think my appreciation of Don and Frank is more in the words, and I agree that when you use the word shock, is needling the subnobulism. That's what Pound and McLuhan talked about, is that they're as charlatans. McLuhan's chalked off as a charlatan, and he was just needling subnobulism to wake you out of your stupor and go, whoa, there is another way to think about this. He's not telling you how to think. But Monk said, silence is the loudest sound in the universe. How do you know when not to play?
When you don't have anything to say.
How simple is that? But, you know, George Clinton says funk is the absence of, and you know, Miles talked about that space between notes. So, I mean,
it's different for everybody. Yeah. Again, it's the individual that finds their creative process.
Yeah.
The great bass player, Mark Johnson, who played with Bill Evans and a lot of great artists over the years. When he got the gig with Bill Evans, he didn't know that material at all. He hadn't been playing that way, but he had a great ear, and obviously was a great bass player even back then.
Yeah.
And so what he did is he would leave a space in the beginning instead of at the end of a phrase. He'd leave a space in the beginning so he could think about not only what the chord was, but what the mood of where Evans was placing the beat pattern, you know, and then he would just wait a second and then he'd come in. So if you listen to him playing with Bill Evans, you'll hear a lot of like ba-boom, ba-boom, you know, like not always on the downbeat. So I think that helped for him to create a style that wasn't so 4 on the floor oriented.
Yeah. It's a really good story to tell me that. You're teaching me a lot. Here's a couple other quotes on silence. Any thoughts? Bob Dylan, experience teaches me that silence terrifies the most.
Sure. Silence, in a way, is the sound of who you are.
Who you are, because
and that's why people are afraid of it. You
now
know?
That's an original quote by you, because that's Debussy said, music is the space between notes. And then Cage said silence is the sum of all the sounds of the environment. But here's another one, Roscoe Mitchell. Silence is perfect.
I agree with all of them.
Go ahead.
For me, there will never be silence because I have tinnitus.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm hearing 92 pitches in my head all at the same time.
Yeah.
Buzzing, and at some point you just have to say, okay, I'm never going to know the sound of silence.
Yeah.
But I could make peace and appreciate these 92 pitches in my head.
The making peace is beautiful because, Cage wanted to learn what silence sounds like, or can there ever be silence, and then put him in that chamber when he was writing 433, and he heard his central nervous system and his blood pumping. So you cannot hear silence, but it's in relationship.
Yeah. These people who built the silence box back in the early 70s or whenever it was, they said that the longest anyone's lasted in there was something like 4 hours, and then you start to go crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can look it up. I don't know if it's called a
Norix.
No, later there was the hush room or whatever. But
hush room. Okay.
This was the real total silent one that was built for scientific purposes.
Wow.
And people would go insane after being in there for a while because they can't handle the sound of silence. Now, is the universe really silent? No. And our understanding of the universe is changing at least 4 times with each year that we're experiencing in modern history. So I can't say, nor can you say, what the universe really sounds like. At least in my personal development, I can't say that. But maybe eventually we'll be able to measure this. Maybe there's going to be an instrument or a means in which science can measure, that it has been said that the pitch of the universe is like a quarter tone below B flat. And that B flat is almost 1 million times lower than the middle C on the piano. So
wait, pitch of the universe is a quarter tone
below B flat.
Below B flat.
Which might tie into some of the Tibetan throat singing and chanting, or Mongolian or Tuvan. There might be some kind of connection between how we rattle our bones and then rattle our consciousness through tapping into the sound of the universe, or the harmony of the universe.
That Corlapana talked about that too. But the tuba throat singers, I loved it when Steinman brought him to Pasadena, and he had him in the Rose Bowl parade. Then he had him on Johnny Carson, and then they were jamming at Zappa's house. And the tuba throat singers, we went and saw them play, and they're basically, their lyrics are about 3 things: their boots, snow, and their horses. It's like that music is so transcendental. It doesn't matter if I know what the words are, because it's, again, back to T.S. Eliot saying, poetry can communicate before it's understood. Yeah,
and really it was the sole inspiration for that song. These boots are made for walking. I'm kidding.
I was going to say that, in the Bulgarian Women's Choir and the tuba throat singers sort of hit at the same time. In Bulgarian Women's Choir charted on the English pop chart.
Oh, I know. I got to see him in concert in London back in those days. It was exciting as hell.
It was great. And you know what else charted on the English pop charts? Silent, 433 by John Cage.
I love that. But a quick story.
Oh, sure.
One of my favorite people in the universe is Laurie Anderson.
Oh yeah, you played with her, right?
I've been lucky enough to make music with her on many occasions, and she's just always wanting to turn a corner and experience something new. So I was over at her place one day, working on her music with her. And there she has these tuvens in her studio, and she has them all in the room where she records. You know, there's like a glass division, there's the control room here, and then there's this little room for performance. And she says, Greg, go out there and play with the tuvens, tuvan throat singers. And I said, what, are you crazy? She says, no, just go, don't think about it, just go out there and play with them. So I'm thinking, okay, it's Laurie Anderson telling me to go and play with the tuvens. I can't really speak with them. They have made all their own instruments. They have their own scales. They have their own everything. You know, it's like me going to Pluto and wanting to sit in with the band in the local bar.
Yeah.
So I just did it kind of like out of respect and admiration for this woman that I love so much. And so I'm saying, okay, here I am. I'm supposed to be somebody with my bass. I'm going to just, you know, I'm going to show them something that they don't
act like you know what you're doing.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to bring to them something they normally don't do. Nice. So I'm going to try to find a pulse or create a groove that underpins what they're doing. It was like the biggest tanking experience of my life. Everything that I tried was just hitting 0.000. It was just horrible. And every time I tried something else and I kept trying to think and be creative and all this, nothing worked. You know, like okay, I'm going to pretend I'm in 3 and underpin that with what they're doing. And they wouldn't even look at me. It was just like, where did the square come from? And then I picked up the bow out of desperation. I picked up the bow and I just started to let the bow go where it wanted to go. And all of a sudden I was in the band.
Wow.
I was in the band of tuvens, and they turned and looked at me like, they said, yeah, man, okay, now you know what we're dealing with here. And so I just kept playing with the bow the whole time, and I was in the club, you know, but it was desperation that brought me there, which has happened more than once in my life. You just you come up with a big fat 0, and then you have to try something that you normally wouldn't have thought possible.
Now, did that ever get released?
I don't think so. I mean, Laurie's recorded so much music at her place and other studios, but yeah, I don't know what happened to it. Just like at Ornette's place, there's a lot of music that just sort of, I don't know where it goes.
Yeah, well,
that's why I stopped collecting CDs and whatever kind of formats that I'm on. It doesn't really mean anything anymore because music is in every which way in society now. It's on somebody's iPhone. It's on a secret cassette tape labeled, UC Berkeley 1983 or whatever. You know, it's I don't know.
I know exactly what you're talking about because Charlie Hayden went on Tom Schnabel's morning. It was pathetic one time and played this rare Ornette in him, like it's like never released, and it was so amazing that I put it outside on my audio cassette machine next to this big bee that was flying around, and I shot it with my toy video camera, Pixel Vision, and you see this bee flying around, and you hear the squawk, and you don't know where the sound is coming from, but it's like. I don't know if that ever came out, but Charlie played it. And it is a big question I have about archiving down the line if we ever get to it. But I wanted to finish with these 2 silence quotes or 2 more that just your thoughts on this. Because the Chinese artist A Wee Wee said, for me, silence is music.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be included.
Yeah.
That you can a tone or a note cannot reiterate or recover or recapitulate without the silence that is needed so that you can hear the what makes that sound is the attack.
Yeah.
There's attack and decay.
Yeah.
So you cannot have a new attack without silence. And if there was never any new attacks, you couldn't hear what the tone of anything was. You couldn't tell if it was an oboe, marimba, or, a violin.
Yeah. Here's the last silence quote for now. Thomas Carlyle. Speech is of time, silence is of eternity.
Well, I would definitely agree with silence is eternal. But I don't know. There could be speech going back to the dawn of what we consider to be time.
Yeah.
We don't know. There's a lot of theories in metaphysical aspects of how we live that talk about different dimensions, and like fairies or different kinds of
like astral plane,
like beings living in,
or parallel universe.
Yeah, beings living in a dimension that's moving, where particles and speed of light and sound and all this is moving in a different clip.
Yeah.
Therefore, we can't see them.
Yeah.
We can't hear them. We can't experience them. So maybe they have a form of language that precursed human development.
Yeah.
That we don't know about.
Yeah.
So far be it from me to assume, just because I read in a history book that Lucy was the first human remnant that was discovered in Kenya, that was the beginning of what's possible with speech, or what's possible with communication, because of the gift of reason of the Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe that. I believe that anything as interesting and as complex as the hominid and a lot of the other creatures that have the capability of reasoning, like the great apes, didn't just happen in one moment.
Yeah.
It happened over a series of developmental conditions. And if there are parallel universes, or not universes, parallel planes within our world, we could just be the last one to come along.
Yeah.
For all we know, or we could be the first one.
You touched on what both Frank Zappa and James Joyce taught me very clearly, that all times are happening now. It's called all at onceness.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds all wooey wooey, but in regards to silence, it's funny because there is a breakdown of this, line, speeches of time, silences of eternity. In we were talking about Lord Buckley, and he says it so well. He says, dig infinity. Now, I have one more in regards to improv, but I have a whole bunch more music questions. Do you want to just do one more and then plan a part 2 down the line?
You're the captain. Whatever you like.
Okay, well, let's try this and then see how it goes. Because this is the artist Paul Bley. I spent many years learning how to play as slow as possible, then many more years learning how to play as fast as possible. I've spent many years trying how to play as good as possible. At present, I'm trying to spend as many years learning how to play as bad as possible. My solo piano playing is a question in itself. The question is why, and after why comes what, and after what comes when. So I'm just, any thoughts on him breaking that down? Fast and slow, good and bad.
How can I put this? I didn't know Paul Bley well. And the only reason why I knew him at all was because he shared a rehearsal space with Mark Rebo at Westbeth.
Oh, did he really?
In the basement there. And what I caught wind of back in those days when I first moved to New York in the mid '80s was that he was kind of like Mr. Au Contraire. You know, he liked dealing with, you know, black and white, and if this is like this can't be like that.
Yeah.
But I think, like all great artists, there was another side of him that was not so much about his philosophies or the way he thought, but more just about the way he was able to blow when he sat down at the piano.
Yeah.
And he was part of a scene that was very high level creative force, you know, with people like Roswell Rudd and Paul Motion and Steve Swallow and Carla.
Yeah.
And Kenny DeVerne and Buell Neidlinger.
Ooh.
You know, just like a group of people who did a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And did all of them on a very high level. But it was also a time when it was kind of hip to be defiant and to say fuck you about everything.
Yeah.
I think left to his own devices, if Paul Bley was not trying to make a statement or to challenge somebody else's greatness, and he just sat down at the piano and played, what you would hear would be magnificent.
Yeah.
But I think there was a bit of this posturing that he felt necessary to put out there.
Did you play with Carla Bley ever?
No, I never actually played with her.
Yeah. How about Buell Neidlinger? Did you ever play or meet him or play with him?
He was my teacher.
Oh my God! How many times you have lessons with him?
I guess I had about close to 100 lessons.
Oh my God! I didn't know that. Here in LA?
Yes.
What do you think you mainly got from Buell?
This ringing in my ears.
That is funny. No, literally?
No.
Okay. I mean, because you know the story about Frank and him and the amp?
No.
Anyways, we'll look it up on the line. Ask your AI to tell you. So besides that, and Greg, I appreciate your sense of humor.
I got a lot from Buell. Buell was a character, and he wasn't universally liked.
Yeah. But
I liked Buell.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was hard to like him, but I guess I would say I loved him.
Yeah.
He was about as, you know, my brother's always been defiant. So my brother always wanted to say, you know, you're believing in the success myth, and that's not real. It's not how, you know, creativity and humans function. And, you know, Buell was a bit like this. Although he was very business oriented, and on one level, he would want to criticize anything that wasn't kind of the street or down to earth at a certain level. So he didn't like jazz that was too clean or arranged. Yeah. Or if the tone was too clear. Yeah. Yet his way of living was a total paradox to that, you know, wanting very much refined things like silverware and these kinds of things. You know, it's like what he preached and how he lived was two different things. But it didn't matter to me. What I really got from Buell, besides knowing to separate what the deep message is from the facade of a person, what I got from him was just the essence of slowing yourself down so that you can create purity with your art.
To create purity. Wow.
I think the first 4 lessons I had with Buell, at this place in Laurel Canyon. I was just long tones with the bow. And I had to just keep playing long tones. And I thought, man, I'm going to run out of money and never get to a scale.
What a great story. Yeah, you know, Paul Richley. Can you make sure that's back in frame? Not Paul.
Go to this
Paul
way.
Just turn it.
I'm kidding.
Just turn it. So
it's fine.
Yeah. Paul Plinley.
Mm-hmm.
He loved, because I think Buell moved up to Canada.
Buell moved to
Pacific,
the Seattle area,
yeah.
to the San Juan Islands.
Yeah. I want to go back to the Paul Blake quote for a second, Greg. And at the end, he says, you know, the question is why, after why comes what, and after what comes when. Of the 5 question words that start with W, who, what, why, when, and where, what do you feel stands out the most for you in your life? Is there any one of those 5 that is sort of more Gregish?
Wheeze.
W-E-E-D?
No, wheeze.
W-E-apostrophe-D?
W-H-E-E-Z.
W-H-E-E-Z?
Yeah.
Wheeze. What does that mean?
Like when you can't breathe and you have lung congestion and you get this wheezing sound, like wheeze.
Okay, of the other 5, any of them stand out? Who, what, why, when, and where?
I guess why.
Guess what? That's the one most people say. Okay.
But I'm not buying into it because maybe most of us never really know why a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
And therefore putting stock into that one word seems a bit senseless to me.
Yeah. Ruth Draper said the key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who must give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. Sounds good, but how do you do that? You played a lot of live shows. How do you bring the audience up onto the stage?
Charisma.
And what does charisma mean? How do you manifest it?
When I figure that out, I'll be calling you. No, I'll say it like this.
Okay.
You know, sometimes, like I was saying with the Tuvins, you tank. You get what we call in the profession flop sweat.
Flop sweat?
Flop sweat is when you go out there and you think you know your shit and you realize you're just tanking. It's like everybody's hating what you're doing. You can feel that hate all the way up on stage.
Wow.
And it happens. You know, it's bound to happen over a 65-year period of performing. But there's also the opposite of that, where you can feel the love that the whole audience is giving you.
Yeah.
When you somehow tap into time and space and the consciousness or gestalt of all that sum total.
Yeah.
The band, the audience, the sound of the room, the sound of the PA, all these things factored in.
Yeah.
And you're just ringing it like a bell.
Yeah.
I've experienced that as being part of an ensemble many times with a lot of different people. But the feeling that stands out in my mind is when I was very fortunate to work with Lou Reed for some years.
Yeah.
And we were doing these very big shows. You know, I guess the biggest one we did was Glastonbury, which was, I think at the time, over 100,000 people.
Yeah. And
it was loud music. You know, we were on a show that was going from city to city that was Pearl Jam, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Lou's band. And sometimes I think we did a few things with Soundgarden.
Yeah.
And the whole group of musicians, like these are some surly dudes in these bands. Some of them are just teddy bear sweethearts, but some of them were kind of like surly dudes at the time. They would stay and they would listen to Lou's complete set. And Lou wasn't always an easy person like Buell. He could be very authoritarian with certain people.
Yeah.
And he demanded total commitment and excellence from everybody that was working with him.
Yeah.
And I think because he was such a great performer that he knew that there was the chance that he could get 100,000 people all in the same mindset.
Yeah.
And all being not reduced, but being transformed into a single thought.
Yeah.
And so we would do his show, you know, big finish, a lot of sound. He played loud. I played loud. The drummer played loud. Mike Rathke played loud. And the whole thing was just slamming. And then he'd go out for an encore and I'd get my stand-up bass and I'd go with Lou. The drummer would have a tambourine. Mike would have his acoustic guitar. We'd go to the lip of stage left and play acoustically for 100,000 people or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And you could hear the silence of the audience.
Wow.
And nobody else that I've ever worked with could do that.
Whoa.
It was like just casting a net across this huge like sea of ants. You know, they just look like ants when there's that many of them. And just somehow bringing them to the shoreline with you. And that was a phenomenal experience. It didn't always happen.
Yeah.
Honestly, it didn't always happen. But it happened a few times where I just thought, holy shit, how does this man do that? I mean, it was some moxie, some cojones, some, you know, chutzpah. He just,
good words.
He had, you know, steel in him.
Dude, you're a word crafter and you are a wordsmith. Really good words, because it really described it well to me. And the two things that stand out for me for Lou is his main teacher was Delmore Schwartz, who was a Finnegan's Wake freak. And he said once, Lou said once, because I lectured on him playing at the Ann Arbor Film Festival in the early years. It wasn't a film act. That was Warhol showing some films, but they played a set. Velvet Underground played a set at the Ann Arbor Film Festival many, many years ago, decades ago. And he said something that stood out in another setting, that he was trying to make Edgar Allan Poe into music. And that was like Curtis Harrington in LA was trying to make Edgar Allan Poe into film. So I really love that. How do you transform that into another medium?
Yeah.
But
well, that's admiration, you know.
Yeah.
Both of those people admired Poe so much.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people did.
Yeah.
That was their benchmark. That was the tuning fork ringing to that vibration.
Tuning fork. But it's not, I'm not gonna clone them. It's like I like to say it. They weren't retro. I mean, they weren't they weren't retro, they were rooted. They were rooted in what Poe was doing. They weren't, I can.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And to root yourself in any great artist is a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have good potting soil, you know, to start your adventures as an artist, you know.
Yeah.
So if that potting soil includes an Edgar Allan Poe or a Tennyson or a Mozart or whatever it is, you're wise to do so.
Leonard Cohen said, the only way you can sell a concert is if you put yourself at risk. And if you don't do that, people know. What role does risk play in your creative process?
Okay. Can I go back to Lou for a second?
Please.
So when I had the opportunity to start working with Lou, he had been on the road touring this record, Magic and Loss. And my friend from back in the days of when Tom Waits was touring his record that he made in New York. What's the name of that record? Well, it was a good record.
Yeah.
It's pretty well received. Michael was the drummer. So we had a chance to play together. And the other bass player was leaving, and Michael said, why don't you call this guy Greg Cohen? You know, I've worked with him. His time is good. He's got a good sound, blah, blah, blah. Well, thank you, Michael. I still appreciate that to this day. But so then Lou actually calls me. I was then living in New Jersey and married with children, and my kids were young. And so he calls the house on the landline, and my son, Ben, answers the phone. He was kind of a precocious young guy.
Yeah.
And and Lou says, is your father there? And Ben said, who is this? And he says, this is Lou Reed. And Ben said, hold on a second, Louis.
That is great.
And so I get on the line. He says, tell your son my name is Lou. And he says, well, listen, I want to hear what you do. Send me a cassette.
Yeah.
Of some of the things.
That's great.
Some of the things you've been doing. So me being this idiotic risk taker that I've been since I was a kid, decided to send him a cassette starting in 1962 and going up to last week, what I was doing.
Right.
I think it was Zorn or something. So I compiled this. It took me quite a while, going back to the 62.
You made him a mixtape.
I was 9 years old, and it started with this song from the time, my brother and I had this band, Charleston Grotto, from the time I was 9 to the time of the present day. And never in my mind, in my silly risk-taking mind, did I stop to think, well, maybe Lou only listens to the first 3 minutes of this, like most normal busy people would do.
Right.
So fast forward, I send the tape, I don't hear anything, and then I hear come and bring your instruments to Radio City Music Hall. We're going to put everything on the carnet and send it to London, where we will rehearse and start the tour. And so we were rehearsing in London, and after the first day of rehearsing, Lou says, you got the gig. And he said, I almost didn't hire you. That tape was horrible that you sent me. And I realized he never probably got past the second song. So that was like an example of what kind of risk not to do, when not to take a risk. But I now, whenever I play, I really go, in fact, I'll say ever since the first time I played in duo with Ornette, I've changed my basic philosophy of playing safe to taking risks as much as possible, because I already did the other way around.
Yeah.
And so now I really want to send my ideas out there without a net.
Yeah.
I've got this the theory that I called spring loading.
Yeah.
And spring loading is basically like if you have a ballpoint pen, that's not a ballpoint pen, but if you had a ballpoint pen and you unscrewed it, you'd see this little spring.
Yeah.
It's not much of a thing and it's very cheap, but if you push it all the way down, it's got a lot of power. So imagine all those kinds of springs being pushed all the way down and being as a base for notes.
Yeah.
So then you let go of that spring and the notes go shooting out into space.
Yeah.
Just like at different levels of trajectory.
Yeah.
So this theory of spring loading is to just like get it out there, get it beyond the front row, get it to the people in the top of the balcony, and get it into space. in such a way that I don't know how far it's going to go, or if it's going to land with acceptance or not.
I asked this question to Napoleon Murphy Brock, who sang some of Zappa's best songs, and he says, in most, everyone says, yes, risk plays a part of their creative process. Napoleon was the only one who says, nope, I leave risk in the dressing room. And to me, what he was saying is, I have to come out on stage and act like I'm confident. So does this idea...
Well, he was working for Frank. Come on. You know,
but there was a lot there. He had to be able to improvise and do these patterns with Frank on the spot and play notes. But I'm just saying, how does having that, what you learned with or not more to be to take risk, how is that involved in competence and courage? Does it take courage to do that? And is there an element of confidence that you have to show when you're on stage?
You have to have confidence.
Yeah.
The minute you doubt yourself is the minute you play a wrong note, because the difference between a right note and a wrong note is just if you believe in it or not.
Yeah.
The moment you start not believing in your notes, you could play the tonic of each chord and it'll be wrong.
But is there an element of courage needed there? Does that take courage to take risk?
I would say, again, if I can bring out the Mobius of triangles, I would say it's a combination of courage, wisdom, and experience.
Yeah. Wow. Experience, that's 3. 1, 2, 3. Viola Spolin, you know this woman, she kind of invented comedy improv. She was a social worker in Chicago, and she was taking, you know, Martin Buber and somebody else in Gestalt therapy, Fritz Perl, and she was doing these role-playing exercises, and then she spawned Second City and Saturday Night Live and everything. It's really a unique story. She said, if the audience cannot see your struggle to achieve something, they cannot root for you to achieve it. What role does struggle play in your creative process?
Huge role.
Huh?
A huge role.
Yeah.
I like what my friend Bill Frisell said.
Yeah.
He says that improvisation is about rescuing the other people in the band.
Yeah.
Like if you're really stretching and wanting to send your ideas in a direction other than the written page, that should be done with respect to capturing or shepherding all the people in your band, not to make you look great.
Yeah. Amazing.
The minute you start doing that, you put this chasm between you and the band, and then it's just notes.
Yeah. Funny, you got ESP totally there, because Ben Ratliff wrote a book on Bill Frisell. And he says in the book, I mean sound as it is long function among jazz players as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality, such that it can be heard at best in a single note. So me and you can hear Miles, and Ben said, oh, he's fragile and pointed. So he sums it up in 2 words. For Coltrane, he says, slightly undercooked and urgent. If a music writer, someone you really respected, was going to summarize Greg Cohen's sound in 2 words, which 2 words would you go, hey, he got me?
Steak and potatoes.
That is good. Steak and potatoes. Thank you so much. I say we keep going unless you. I mean, this has been the marathon.
The only thing is I'm on my bike, so if it's raining, because of my eyes, I can't see the depth of the puddles, and I don't want to wipe out.
Why don't we wrap it up then with one more? Is that okay?
Sure.
What was the motive of the cave artist? Now the thing is, it's also the motive of the cave musician. We have record of cave art, but you know, if you see Herzog's film, Shadow Dreams, whatever, on cave art, he's like, oh, here's a flute we found. So they can imagine what the cave music was maybe sounding like. Cave dance. We don't really have solid documentation, but we can imagine. So when I say cave artists, I mean cave musicians, cave dancers, and cave cave art. What's your hunch or guess was their motive?
You mean you're talking about like Nick Cave and John Cave?
No, I'm talking about those guys way back.
I know. You know, I'm going to answer that question with another question.
Yeah.
Years ago, I was in Hawaii, on the Big Island, Hawaii, and they have these tunnels or caves that have these this artwork that is made from different colors of lava. Like the white lava is what stands out, is the designs mostly, but they have red, they have brown, they have black, and they have white lava.
Yeah.
And of course, me being the nerdy kind of guy that I am, I wanted to go, and it's not easy to see them because you literally have to crawl on your belly.
God.
Because the cave is like this high, you know, because time moves rock, it moves geology. So I'm sitting there crawling on my belly, and this stuff is sharp, trying to witness this ancient art from the Hawaiian Islands. And I'm looking at it, and of course it's all amazing, but I'm just thinking to myself, they sure as hell didn't make this like experiencing this the way I am on my belly, you know. And then I realized, okay, plate tectonics and the oceans and volcanoes and just time has moved everything around.
Yeah.
So we pick up a flute from, you know, maybe the big cave in France, I forget what it's called, where some of the most magnificent
cave art is preserved.
Art with charcoal that we know of exists. That still is in its same geological surroundings, you know, so you can stand up, you can see it, but there's a lot of other places where it's not. And so I'm just not equipped, or I'm not of the mindset or of the earth condition to really comment on it in an intelligent way.
Yeah.
But I can say, the thing that I feel when I've seen pictures of that, and I can look at it in a book comfortably, or not having to squint because there's no light in there, or you can't use a flash or whatever, I can say, wow, whatever it is that makes a human being a creative creature has existed from the dawn of our existence as humans, whatever kind of human you want to, you know, whether it's hominids or whatever, it must have existed from the dawn of that, you know. And that curiosity and that quest for understanding what the essence of life is connected directly with the creative process. So whether you're interpreting the look of a elk or some kind of wild animal that you come in contact with, or the look of a tree, or whatever it is, it's steeped in wonder.
Steeped in wonder. What a great word.
It's steeped in wonder. And we're very lucky to be alive, living on the planet Earth still after all these
Yeah.
millions of years, and to still have the potential for wonder.
Yeah.
And when that spark and that potential for wonder is like the cave that is buried and sediment has been laid on top of it so you can no longer see it, this is what we have as a danger in our society.
Yeah.
For not just the creative process, but for the freedoms and the flexibility of life.
Yeah.
To experience all of this.
It's really amazing, Greg, because you sort of like, it's a preview for part 2, which I hope we can do somewhere down the line, because freedom is a big question, just to preview some of the topics we'll cover, because freedom is a huge one I love to talk about. And also, Auden the poet says the mystery of art is that we don't know if it activates or pacifies us. So that's, McLuhan talked about what's the difference between education and entertainment, because you've been an educator too. But I'm not asking you to answer these, you can comment. But the last one is Thornton Wilder saying that art is a confession, art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. So these are all kinds of topics we can just go off on in part 2.
But all these have to do with the difference between the artist and the experiencer. So
yes.
As an artist, you could say that the purpose of art is to activate. And as a listener, you can say the purpose of music, let's say, is to calm or to make you dance. So it really depends on which side of the coin you're on.
Yeah.
It's the same for somebody with a brush or somebody with a typewriter.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a duality between who is creating it and who is receiving it.
Yeah.
Not all art is created to satisfy the public.
It's a funny flip of what McLuhan did mid-career. He switched his main aphorism, the medium is the message, or the medium is the message, to the user is the content. And he learned it from Finnegan's Wake. When you read Finnegan's Wake out loud with a group of people, you can't really read it by yourself out loud. You can do it, but if you read it out loud with a group of people, that is a living organism. And it's Joyce enabling you to take whatever he did farther. So it's like when I saw Derek Bailey at McCabe's once, and he's like playing his guitar, clink, 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 and sticking knitting needles in it or whatever. And I think great artists fucks your shit up and says you can do that. So I says I can do that. So I went home and tried to do it, and it sure wasn't as good as him, but it inspired me to try.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty, I think, what you're sort of
I'm sure
touching.
Derek would have liked that.
he looked up after 5 minutes of playing going, no one's walked out yet. Well, Greg, what a pleasure and honor. One of the best ever.
Pleasure.
And I really appreciate our time here with Greg Cohen. And we're going to say, and thanks for bringing that chocolate. That was super good. It kept me going. And I'm going to hit the end broadcast button here. And Greg, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever.